You're broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk.
It almost sounds like you're reading, Dave.
It almost sounds like it. You know?
Took 100 episodes.
Yep, I had to look. I had to look. I pulled that off.
We keep it real.
Yep. 100% real and no bullshit. So there we go.
None of this is scripted.
No. Wait, let me see. What's going on? Question mark. It should be an explanation
Line.
point. Yeah, it should be a question mark. And then there's the little dot for the page break.
Yeah.
So we've gotten 100 episodes here. We're here with Jim Wendler, who is
Thank you for having me.
a staple in the Elite FTS Table Talk podcast series,
Yes,
I think we'll
thank
call it.
He would have been the first one, but there was a time issue with that one. And I think Dan Green was first, JL was second, Jim was third.
All right.
But first in my heart, because he should have been first.
Yeah. How is JL? Is he still doing his, what's it called, the spot? Or
The spot, yeah. I talked to him last week. He's got
still
two
like-
locations, still doing that.
is he still
doing,
massive?
no.
No. Oh,
He's-
jeez, what's JL big?
It's not,
He's structurally massive.
yes.
He's still,
Yes. He's not, he's not fat. I mean, he's in shape. He's where he should be. He's where he's at.
Looking at JL's hands when he makes a fist, like there's a reason why he benched what he did. He just has that gorilla strength. I mean, gorilla strength.
Oh, no, this is it's basketball hands.
Where you're
man.
like, I'm like, and he's like, ooh.
Yeah, you go to give him a lift out, you don't know where to grab, right? It's like when people have that weird close
your
grip.
hands are touching.
They got that weird grip. Do you go in? Do you go out? You don't know where to go.
I can't upright roll that close. And I don't want a snatch grip. Yeah, he's, that's good. All right. It's crazy that I'm always wondering, when we did all those gyms out in New Jersey, there was probably a dozen like privately owned gyms like as a la DeFranco that were all right there. And it's always been like Columbus has not been a hotbed for personal training and stuff like that. It's really crazy because I'm glad he's doing well.
No, there's a lot. He's got a lot. He's doing good.
Yeah, and it's funny because I came from New England, and New England has a very, I guess, a different environment than out here. But me living out in Columbus, to see the amount of facilities, like you can throw a rock. And
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
They're everywhere.
Okay. Well,
Everywhere
that's good.
now. Yeah.
Well, it's good and bad, I guess, too. It's like I would, none of our kids ever go outside of the training, but the coaches, I can't believe they let that happen. I mean, if they were playing football, you play basketball, no one gives a shit. They don't have that structured environment, but yeah, that's good though.
So
I'm glad JL's doing well. He's a smart dude.
So what have you been up to, training wise, coaching wise? I think everybody kind of wants to know an update of the Wendler saga.
Well, with we last year the London football team did incredibly well. We went 3 deep in the playoffs, and the funny story is I guess just got real loud. Is for the past 5 years or however long, we've had a incredibly run-heavy offense. We run the old school wing T offense, and I don't know why, but last year, the first 2 games, we went to the more fancy spread offense, and we lost both games.
What do you mean went to the more fancy? You guys went to that?
Yeah, so we disbanded everything we did and went to a pass-heavy offense. We did almost all passing. We lost to a team that won 2 games at the end of the season. That after that second game, the kids approached the coach and said, "We got to make a change. We're going back to what we did." We went 11-2. We had a stretch of games against fairly good opponents that was like, I think we scored something 200 points and gave up 7 in 3 games. I mean, it was just. So it's funny because everyone thinks the spread offense are going to score a ton of points. We don't, and we got away from that. And then we just put we went back to the old school. So in, I think, 3 days, luckily the kids were used to that offense, but we implemented the whole offense. And we had scored a total of 1 offensive touchdown in 2 games. That first game, I think it was 40-0 at halftime. I think we scored.
I do remember following the first couple games, and then being the fair weather fan.
I'm
like, fuck it, it's over. It's a rebuilding year. They're done. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is high school. It's always rebuilding.
Yeah, that's the hard. And so we ended up having the offensive player of the year. We had 2 kids win co-defensive player of the year. 3 or 4 kids were all state. And once again, we just ran the shit out of the ball. And we had a terrific group of seniors. And I give them the most credit, the best senior class we had, just for the fact that they stood up and said, we got to do something different. We're not, as a group, they all got together. And boy, that's hard to do.
No, it's real hard.
As a 17-year-old kid, right? And like, we're going to take charge of our team. This is our team.
Obviously, it's hard to do for 50, 40, 30-year-old adults. Too.
To take their own success in their own hands. So, and it was
How'd the coach take to that?
They were fine. I think I don't know when any decision was really made to change. I don't go to any of the practices. So when the first game, I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, we're usually up by 30 points. We played 3 minutes. And, we had a tremendous group of athletes, and we always have a fairly good line. The way that we coach and the way we train allows them to, even though they're not the biggest or strongest, they're aggressive, and that makes all the difference in the world. And so the bottom line is we ended up doing incredibly well. We lost our last playoff game 14-13. And the next time the next game, the team we lost to ended up scoring like 50 points.
So I mean, closer than that.
14, we really we lost the game, but we lost the game. We did. I don't feel like they totally won the game. I'm not.
Yeah, I get it.
I know it's not giving credit to the victors because they did everything 1 point better than what we did. But it's one of like we've lost 2 playoff games in 2 different years to the same team, and we lost those games. They were just more talented. They were a better team. But when you lose a game, you're like, it's. I tell the kids all the time, we're never going to win a game on talent. We can win the game on, being aggressive, hard work, all that stuff. And I said, if the better team wins, if you give everything, then it's fine. That's the way shit goes, especially in high school football. You're going to, one year the team might have 3 all-state, Division I prospects who are amazing. And you can't, it's hard to counter that. And the only way to really counter that is aggressive, hard, that. And that's really the only answer to that style of offense and defense. I always like to say we play offense like a defense. And we play defense like an offense. Like our defense, we dictate where you go. You don't get to say anything. And an offense, we're incredibly aggressive, and we're just downhill. So it was an awesome time. But those first 2 games, we never lose. Like we lost. We lose 1 or 2 games, maybe a season. And so those first 2 days, or I should say, after those first 2 games, that Saturday when we come back, it was like a weird feeling. Like I don't even know what to do. Like because we're usually like, that poor son of a bitch. I put him on his back 6 times and he started crying. You should have seen it. And now it's like, man, we lost. Like we scored more defensive touchdowns in those first 2 games than we offensive touchdowns, which is nuts. That's the only, our defense kept us in those games. And, but like you said, every year is a rebuilding year. You never know what you have until you're about halfway through the season. So it's been, it was a great, my most proud moment. As a coach, where you saw the kids coming together and making the decision to do what might not be popular because as I don't know if people know, but it's not an incredibly sexy offense where you're just running the ball all the time. And I think some of the parents were unhappy, but would you want to win?
Exactly.
Or do you want to throw 80 times a game and score no points? So
now have you adjusted the training for your athletes much, or are you kind of following the same sort of thing? Or
every off season and every in season you're changing something, and the same basic ideas remain. It's just hopefully I know I am a better coach than I was 5 years ago, and the big thing that we changed this year was, as an example, I say, listen, we do our warm up, whatever. We do this, that, and then like, listen, this is your squat workout. Go ahead and get it done. We got 25 minutes or whatever. Now every single set is on a clock. Everyone does their sets together. So the first guy goes, the second, we have 3 guys in a rack. Third guy goes, 2 minutes is up or whatever. I designate next ride, put the weight on, we're going. And it's like the old speed sets almost, but imagine we had a clock going. And what this ended up doing for us is one, I'm sure you guys can understand this. It's always the weakest guys who take the most amount of time to get their shit done. And that's the strongest guys who will take, 15 minutes or whatever. And so this condensed our training and got so much more done and so much quick and made it a quick time. And it gave kids like an urgency to change the weights. We're all working together. And that's been the biggest thing because we can get a squat workout done, depending on what we're doing, in 10 to 15 minutes and everyone's done instead of having to wait for this rack to finish.
Holy shit.
Oh, it's quick. And
so each rack is on the same clock?
Yeah. Okay. I monitor and I got, I bought this watch like 3 years ago and I was like, how many times do I use a watch? I use it all the time, every day. But that's been, I saw a junior high school do this. And I was like, you know what? And Dave, the growing pains to get this done, it was...
Well, kids fuck off.
Oh, my God.
So once you get through that, though, they can't fuck off because you're getting ready or you just went.
Yeah, and if there's a team that kids that are lagging behind, we're going. Then that's your own fault. Get your shit together. And like I said, it's never the kid squatting 405. It's this kid squatting 65 pounds or whatever. The point being is that has been the biggest change. And obviously, we've done in this... we changed some stuff in season 2, but nothing massive. But it's always evolving because the older I get, the more that I do this, the more that I realize that we are first a physical education coach and then a strength coach because the way that the kids' preparedness is. And my wife does all that. She has the 7th graders and 8th graders, and that's taking care of a lot of it, but. You're never, if you neglect those first 12 years, it doesn't matter how much you do. You're never going to catch up. So we still do a ton of like stuff that you did because you're older than me. I want to make sure everyone knows that. I had to drop
Let them know.
But gym class was like fucking hard sometimes. And we have to play catch up with that. So we do a lot of just basic gym, calisthenics and stuff as a warm up. It doesn't take up the whole time, but these kids are lacking in a lot of skills. And I told some kid asked me about this, and I was like, listen, it's not your fault, man. But I had a choice whether to complain about it, like you hear, like kids don't play anything, or you can go do something about it instead of, we're going to go ahead and do something about it. So having that pipeline with my wife, I can tell you just both of us have gotten so much better. It is and they have to graduate into our program. My wife decides whether or not they're ready. So it's just like this. And so we get 3 kids, I think, next month, the first 3 kids. And they're all like, yeah. And as soon as they walk in the weight room, oh, shit.
Yeah, they don't know what they just got themselves
because
into.
Some of the kids who are freshmen now, she's like, they always come back like, you don't even know what it's going to be like. You don't know what hard work is. They're trying to flex their muscles and stuff. So, the one, she's a mom, so she's very caring, and she's not a football player, and she doesn't have, which is what they need. They need someone to be patient with them because I don't have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And you can't, that doesn't mean I'm mean, but I'm like, listen, man, I asked you to do this. If you don't want to do it, I don't know what, like, I'm just not going to coach you anymore because because there's 60 kids in there. Like, you can't, monopolize the time. And it also, the way that we like with the every minute or whatever we do our set, it's just a tremendous amount of discipline, and everything is like you cannot break character from the discipline. I think that really helps us too, not just obviously in the weight room, but on the football field. So,
and I think that's kind of a good point to mention because I've started working with some football guys outside of here as well. Yeah. And I have 2 groups. I have the high school group who is very focused, very locked in. Yep. And then I have the middle school group who I have a group of 5.
Never bring a loaded gun.
And it's like just like pulling cats off the ceiling.
Oh my God.
It's like they don't know where their body is, like everything. But I've taken a lot. I was at a seminar that you and Dave had I think it was at OSU. Was it you were talking on stage about the team, and I incorporated a lot of just getting them to fucking roll around and like bear crawl and just kind of understand that shit. And they get so much more out of that than the majority of the rest of the work, because that's the shit that they need to learn the most, and they need to build that.
Well,
right?
you can't do calculus until you do algebra.
Right.
And so even this year, the way we structured the off season, we have a physical, the PT. We have 10 minutes of PT work, and I decide what we're going to do. And we do a lot of body weight squats and push-ups and chin-ups, a ton. And just having body weight squats in there, and some of these kids in 10 minutes, they'll do, one kid did 250 squats and 120 push-ups in 10 minutes. And those squats, you have to, like I am a stickler, you have to stand all the way up. You can't just pump out your, you're a bodybuilder doing the hack squat. Yeah, like I'm feeling the muscle. So everything has to be, push-ups have to be all the way up, all the way down, stuff like that. And I couldn't believe, I originally did it because it's been so crappy here. We can't run, so I need something to kind of train. And it's like, well, these kids, like, body weight stuff's not going to hurt them. Like, it's not like they're like if we did it when Westside, it wouldn't be smart. But our jumping got better. Our our barbell squats got better. Everything got better. And I was like, holy shit, this is what they need. And so it's been, we do a ton of calisthenics too as part of our warm up. But it's been like I said, you start to realize that there's no need to do this if you can't do this. And our standard is 50 push-ups. If you can't do 50 push-ups, do you really want that guy next to you on the field who can't do a 50 push? I mean, you're 16 years old, so you can't be that fat and weak. And so like that, when we raised our expectations, everything went up. We had a 330-pound kid not be able to do a chin-up, can now do 3. And another 325-pound kid couldn't do a chin-up at all. Now he can do 1, and it's just like we just pound the shit out of the basics. And it's always nice, like you see occasionally like on social media, all these advanced warm-ups, like the kids just need to learn how to fucking jump. Why do we care so much about your external rotation retraction if you can't even do a setup? Or whatever. I just ate, so
that works.
But Dave, it's been, I've said this before, it's been the best thing I ever did. I finally feel like I have like I know this is going to sound really bad. I know like as me and you or parents, like that's supposed to be our, that should be enough for us. We're dads, right? That should be all we need. Well, no, it doesn't work like that. I need to have more purpose. And I need to have kind of a more global purpose. And I don't say global, just more than just my team, so to speak. And I feel like I actually have a purpose now. I get up and we were talking before, like, the day of training, my wife and I always make fun of the person who has to train, like, you got to go in and deal with the ding dongs. But I feel like I have purpose now. And I think it's, as much as obviously, I've done some good stuff with the kids and the community, but I feel like they've given back to me tenfold. And it's, it's been good for me. Plus, being able to call your own shots, Dave, you can't put money on that. And what I mean by that is if anyone works in the college and pro sports stuff, you have a ton of limitations, and you're hamstrung a lot of either by the unions or NCAA regulations or whatever. So being part of this, you can kind of do what you want and, not have to answer to really anyone, so to speak, at least anything political. I mean, obviously I'm not going to go in there and take a dump on the floor and be like, why is this a big deal? It was solid.
But that's one of those things that I think if you get to see them as potentially a middle schooler all the way up to graduating. So you see them change and develop, and you are having a tremendous impact on their trajectory in life. Yeah,
I hope I do. And, the most insane thing is when you see the maturity from like junior year to senior year. There's always like for most of the guys, there's a point where like, now you get it, huh? He's like, yeah, now I realize why our toes have to be behind the line. Like this is important. Like this little thing's important, or this, or they understand training. I finally had one kid last year really understand. And we were talking about something like, listen, I'm going to lower some of your weights. Are you okay with that? Because he's a super strong kid. Like there's 2 kids I've coached that when you see an explosive, strong dude who's has good intra and intermuscular coordination, where he does a deadlift and you can just see him bind up and get taut, and then, you know what I'm saying? Instead of like, he understood. He's like, I don't care. I know exactly what we're doing here. He's like, I understand bar speed. I understand that I don't need to lift X, Y, and Z to get to this. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I totally get it now. He's like, we're fine. And then he ended up deadlifting 600 for 5. I'm like,
there you go.
And it's no mistake that he was one of the defensive players of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy numbers regardless of weight room, regardless of sport.
Yeah.
Like, that's just strong. That's fucking strong.
He is and not just that, his maturity, just emotional maturity and just social maturity is incredible. He's got that Vietnam stare occasionally, though. He looks at you like, holy shit. I remember, when you're on the sideline, sometimes it's hard to see the game. You're at the ground level. So 2 years ago, that kid was he was played on like a D tackle, D lineman. And I was like, I'm just going to watch him this play, He hit this kid off the line so hard. This kid's neck snapped all the way back. He fell on his head. And the first thing I thought as a dad, I'm like, God, that's someone's son. Oh, boy. Oh, it's embarrassing. I mean, he got rocked.
Fucking ragdoll.
And I was like, how is this the poor kid's got to just fake an injury and get out of there, man. Because, before you deadlift, you always grab the hamstring. 2 weeks out, buddy, I was dehydrated. You always have an excuse planned. Or just, 225 speed work. You don't even, right here.
Got cramp.
Yeah. Last Sunday, you don't even know.
Yeah. I didn't tear it, but it's cramping really bad. Something's going on.
Turned a little black and blue. I put what was that stuff we used to inject?
Saline.
Besides steroids? No, there's the other stuff that Ben Johnson used.
The hydrogen peroxide and saline, the Trammel.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah. I remember that didn't work. Nothing works. Dude, saline hurts.
Saline.
Now, what was the
does that hurt?
Purpose or benefit of that?
It's supposed to repair. Because everything we eat is salt, so we fucking just put it in there.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
It's
like prolotherapy before prolotherapy was prolotherapy.
Yeah, that was back in, oh my God. I think I did 2 of the saline, 2 or 3, and I'm like, I'd just rather tear my pec. Fuck this.
It just reminds you of how much worse it could be.
I can still feel it. It's like when you drink tequila and then you puke, you're like, I'm not touching tequila again.
Then you think about it again.
Yeah.
The saline wasn't that bad.
Oh, I hated that, man. And the screwed up thing is you can tolerate suspension. Just because you're like, I know this stuff's working. With the saline, like, I don't know. Seems like a big price to pay for something I don't know.
Now,
those knots from the suspension. I had that stuff timed down right before I went to Westside. I had, I can't remember what it was, but it was an hour. I figured it out, and it worked. But it was funny, like, how did we know it worked? You're taking, 2 grams. It was the suspension, Dave, not the 100 milligrams of D-ball.
That was it.
I'm crying in the shower. It's not the D-ball. Oh.
Speaking of that
went off the rails real quick. Sorry, Dave.
I could keep going. I got a question right here about P.E.D.s that I was going to throw out later.
I think it's a good one right now. Might as well roll into that one.
We can roll in this one. The question was, these Instagram names, Kurt Cobain.
Don't worry about it.
Whatever.
Kurt Cobain.
He writes, if I can read my own writing, which I did earlier when I did the intro. This may be my interpretation, but it seems like talking about PEDs is very taboo, hush hush, or just a sensitive topic in general. Why is this the case?
Because it's illegal?
Yeah. Do you think social media has impacted this in any way? So in other words,
first of all,
why do people not talk about steroids?
Well, it's illegal. I mean, that's like saying, like, why don't you rape people? You're strong enough. I mean, what's the big deal? Right? Just, boy, that's bad. Sorry.
It works.
The point being is, and here's the thing is, Bill Phillips, when he had that underground steroid, what was that, in the probably early 90s?
Yeah, you're going back to the mail order shit, man.
Yeah. And then Muscle Media came out, and they used to have a drug, instead of a athlete profile in the back, they had a drug profile. I remember that, because it was like, this is genius. Yeah. Who's featured this month? I knew it. Anavar, what is this? Chick magazine? And then even when we first started, we were, I wouldn't say broadcasting, but if someone had a question, we were pretty. And then I think I think doesn't get enough credit was Louis, was when that T-Nation article came out in 97, 98, that interview, The Mad Monk of Powerlifting. And I remember reading that, and I'm like, oh my God, finally someone stuck, and it was, so it's, I don't think it's ever been taboo. You just, it doesn't, I don't think it really benefits anyone. And the other thing I don't know, like, I don't understand this is if someone says, like, let's say you take stuff, but you don't say anything, and people are like, well, you're misleading. I'm like, first of all, it's none of your business what I do. Like, the narcissism to think that I owe you something is unbelievable to me. Number two is, I remember the first time I saw a bodybuilder, I was in a hotel in Wisconsin, and we didn't have cable growing up, and so this was like, it was like Mr. Olympia or something, and the guy was, doing the pec bounce, and the kid next to me, the family friend's like, Mommy, he's making his titties bounce. And I'm like, oh my God, he said titties. I'll never forget that. I'm like, oh shit, we're all in trouble.
Here we are 20-some years later, 40 years later,
so
titties.
So a couple years later, when I was in junior high, I remember talking to my buddy Tom, and we knew it. Like, it's pretty easy to figure out. Like, I've seen a lot of, even, I was 6th grade at the time. I remember this because we were at a dance. He's like, man, steroids sound awesome. I'm like, well, you have no idea. And I remember when you see those, like the giants, I knew that wasn't normal. And I have heard whisperings of steroids. So I'm like, obviously, like, I put 2 and 2 together at a young age before it was common to know. And I think it's very funny how, like, you don't think young kids can figure this out? I mean, they're looking at porn when they're 10. You don't think, like, that's the only thing we shield the kids from is this testosterone shit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a weak excuse. And the other thing is, you're not owed, I don't think anyone owes you a thing. I think that entitlement and narcissism is disgusting to me. And that's a very small issue. I just, like, who cares? And we've been deceived, like, we've been deceived all through this pandemic. Like, you think steroids is the big thing? Oh my God, it's selling extra creatine. It's like, no, it's not bad for you.
Yeah.
So
I look at this a few different ways.
I don't know about the social media thing. I don't follow steroids.
Well, I've always kind of had the stance of, I don't want to be the person that's going to push, let's say it's one of your kids, right? So you got a 16-year-old, 15-year-old kid, makes his way out here, is talking to me on the weekend, talking about drugs. I don't want to be the person that's going to push him to take, or the person that's going to hold him back from taking. That's not my role. That's somebody else's role. And when you are in any position of influence, coach, whatever it's going to be, you have influence. And you have responsibility for that influence. So I don't want to be in that spot. But to go back to what you were saying is, when they're talking about misleading and online and all this other stuff, I like to throw it back on the person who's asking. Like, why do you care if somebody's natty or not? Why do you care that somebody's not talking about steroids or not? Why
is it so important?
Give me your reason why this is important. And then I'll guarantee over 90% of the time, there's no legitimate reason. It's not like this person's contemplating the pros and cons, if they should, or how widespread it is, and they really kind of want to know. That's never the case. It's always seems to be the case
I already know where you're going with
exactly. That person's bigger than me, so they must be on steroids. But see, even if you have this conversation about the steroids and say, okay, here's what I've done over X number of years and all this, all this and all that. Let's say you're natural. And we've known people like this. We sponsor people like this. Say you're natural, nobody's going to believe it when you say it. So what's the
benefit
for that person who competes drug free, gets drug tested? What's their positive to be able to come out and say, well, the people say, well, they would be a great ambassador, a great representative for other drug-free people. Till assholes like you say that he's not fucking natural, and do natty or not saying that he's not fucking natural. So now we're right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So what benefit? Or then what's the benefit to the person who is transparent? Say they're taking 2 grams a week. And they lay out, okay, I'm taking tests, I'm taking trying, I'm taking this, and they do that, and they happen to be a pro bodybuilder or all-time world record. What's the response to that going to be? I already can tell you what the fuck it's going to be. He takes way more than that. That's bullshit. He's not taking 4 cc's a test. He's taking, I heard he was taking da-da-da-da-da-da. So no matter what the narrative is or what the answer coming out of the person who was asked
gonna get shut
is,
down.
It's a lie. So what do you want? Do you want something that you're going to call a lie or a misdirection in regards to communication? And because that's what you're going to get, And let's look at the people who are transparent, just out of the blue. The people who are transparent, do they have some special interest in a HRT clinic? Do they have a special interest in
they just so happen to have a link.
Do they have a SARMs discount code? So let's follow the money like everything else and see where that goes. And it's still, why is it anybody, do you want to know my other fucking prescriptions too? What do you want to know?
I have this weird lump on my ball.
I got a bag over here with 6 different prescriptions in it. Should we talk about all those and what I'm on those for? Especially the Xanax, because of assholes like you that are fucking jumping people all the time.
Well, it's true, right? And it's one of those things where they're always looking for the excuse to not give someone credit for working hard to do a thing.
Or an excuse as to why they need to work a little harder.
They're like, well, I'm never going to look like that because I don't take all this shit. Right?
Well, yes, I'll never be that strong. Or if it's not that, it's if I did that.
Right.
If I took that or if I did this. And a lot of times what you find out, and it's odd, but it makes sense. The higher you go up in strength sports or really any sport for that matter, the less you see you would think that the doses are going to be out of hand. Yeah. You don't see that at the highest level. And the genetics play
for sure.
It plays a card as well. Not just their sport genetics or skill genetics, but maybe their genetics in regards to how they process. I've seen people take just a couple C's a test. Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck? That's not fair. That's more unfair than the natty or not. Because they're not jabbing enough to be able to get the gains that they're supposed to get.
You're not sore enough to bench 600.
Well, I think just the overall education on the topic is so shitty. I think the overall general knowledge of what that actually entails. Right?
It's there, though.
They stick in, all of a sudden you're a Hulk.
It's not like we're looking for fucking vaccine information. I mean, all this information is there.
Out there. And it's been out there for a while.
It's easy to find. It's not like you got to rely on, and T-Nation's got good stuff, so this is not a drag on them in any way, but it's not like you got to rely on T-Nation and all these other quasi-fitness strength sources for your info. You can go see you can look the studies up. They're right there.
You're not going to a message board for your testing.
You want to talk about some fucked up corruption, right? So now that I said that, you can't find vaccine studies, right? Here's the better thing. When I was growing up, and first was introduced to testosterone, in the package insert, it said, this will not enhance athletic performance.
That was when I was in college, I took a drug and something class, and that was the official stance of the AMA, that steroids not only do not increase muscle mass, strength, or athletic performance. And it was like probably 98. And I was like, God, this is... then why is it banned?
Yeah, and that's why I have so much faith in our medical institution, the FDA, the CDC. Fuckers lied to me about tests when I was fucking 13 years old. Why should I trust them now?
Yeah, and I remember reading that, and I'm like, God, this is really. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong on everything, but that means they're wrong about a lot of stuff, And I just, the older I get, Dave,
that's not just wrong though. That's
if
we want to go back to the original question, like, why does nobody talk about it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the fucking FDA said that we weren't supposed to. And, you see what I'm saying? It's like, let's blame it on them. Fuck them.
Yeah.
That was our example.
And that was 1998, you said, Jim?
Yeah, I'm saying it.
Holy
They
shit.
still
With the package insert?
No, I'm saying this is like in the...
Like the official stance.
The official stance.
Yeah. I remember actually the insert, it was like, this is, because it was funny. It's like, look at this shit.
Meanwhile, you have like Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa just hitting fucking 600 foot nukes.
Steroid testing's over in baseball.
Is it really?
Yeah, they had 20 years, and I think it's official. So next year is going to be awesome.
There you go.
It should just be fucking wide open. That shit would just look like fucking Mutant League.
Well, the other thing that I don't think people understand is if you can't take a lot and play baseball. You can't take a lot and play football. You just can't. It has a cutoff point where you're not going to be able to do anything. So I always laugh and like, Mark McGuire was taking a gram a week. I'm like, really? You really think Mark, he couldn't swing a bat? He'd be so pumped up. And I was telling Mason, my oldest son, about Barry Bonds. I'm like, I'm not even a baseball fan, but when Bonds was up or playing a game on TV or McGuire and Sosa,
fucking electric.
It was amazing. And Bonds would get up there, and I remember the bases were loaded. Barry Bonds came up, they just fucking walked them. We'll take the one.
100%.
I'd rather just take the one run, and then rather than So
here's another angle I just thought about with this, as you were saying. I don't know why this came to my head. Is they're not asking like if these pro athletes or strength athletes what kind of strain of weed they're smoking.
Yeah,
and that's legal.
Yeah,
right. In most states, that's legal, and it helps with recuperation and recovery. Right.
Well, that's my favorite. He doesn't take steroids for strength. He does it for recovery. I'm like, no one. That's like reading Playboy for the articles.
Yes.
But what I think is kind of interesting that I just learned the other day is that they also test the strength coaches too. Like I was talking to,
oh boy,
I was talking to a former strength and conditioning coach in Major League Baseball, and they couldn't take, if they got popped, then they would get in trouble.
That certainly doesn't explain why so many of them are weak and out of shape, though.
Right.
I can see, some of the strength coaches that we've seen over the years. Oh, I can't work out, dude. I got a drug test.
Yeah. Was he in baseball?
Baseball.
Okay. Well, baseball's fucking stupid.
He even anything, like he got popped for anything, he'd get fired.
Wow.
So glad I didn't go down that route.
He's in the minors too, right?
Uh-huh.
I guess it doesn't matter because the policy is going to be the same throughout the whole league, right?
I don't know. I don't know if that was.
I
don't know if that was just a team thing. I have no idea. But it was. He told me just the other day, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, I mean, for me, if I was the coach of the team, I'd just be like, "All right, guys, fucking, we gotta have an image here. We gotta do something a little different."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's weird. The whole situation. I mean, a lot of people have been mentioning that like. The issue comes for them when someone is obviously taking shit and then they're selling a protein powder.
That's bullshit, though. I'm going to call them out on that.
Right.
That's bullshit. The only reason people are saying stuff like that now is because people like me are coming back on them and saying, why is it so important that you know for sure? Because if it was the
does anyone really think protein powder works?
Well, exactly. I mean,
it makes you shit.
Yeah, it's the whole. Whatever. I mean, I'm just I'm over the whole thing because
we know
if I really gave a fuck, right? If Jim's on or off or whatever, when at any point, if I ever fucking cared, how does that change what I need to do for my own strengths, weaknesses,
absolutely.
Training, discipline, showing up?
Well, the best part is they'll say, it's not about me, Dave. It's about the kids. It's about the kids. And it's like, really? That's how they defend it. It's like, it's not about me. I'm such a man of the people, and I'm willing.
Holier than thou.
Yeah. No, that's a debate I don't want to have with anybody. I don't want to have that bullshit. But I'm not going to say it online. It's about the kids, okay? Yeah. You're going to get me into a rant now. Yeah. It's about the kids, really?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to throw that one out now after these last 2 years when it was about the kids. No, let's sacrifice our kids to save 80 fucking year old people with 5 comorbidities. But there's my rant. It's over. I'm going to stop before we get canceled.
It's called crate training. That's what they're doing to these kids.
But you see what I'm saying, though? Don't act like it's all about them when we're basically went through 2 years of sacrificing them per se to be able to save.
Yes.
Well, like you had said about narcissism, it's like that lack of self-awareness and that lack of truly understanding what your actions impact other people and thinking, like, even the things you say have an impact on other people. Like, it doesn't necessarily, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter what people say as much as, like, having that awareness to not be a fucking douchebag.
Well, let me go back to what you're saying again, though, because it's my brain's still ranting about it. So it's about the guy that's promoting the supplements. Mm-hmm. So why aren't they talking about the supplement company who's sponsored them?
Spending money on this person, right?
Who's more at fault there? Mm-hmm. The bodybuilder who can't rub 2 fucking pennies together. Yeah. Taking a sponsorship.
Growth is expensive.
Right? Taking a sponsorship that pays very little. You know,
how can I look like I take protein powder without growth hormone?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's doing everything that he or she can do to be able to do what they love and what they're real passionate about. Or the person but they don't do that, because if they did that, they would say, well, how come the owner of said company, are they on shit? Are they not on shit?
Mm-hmm.
They never talk about the owners of said company.
Oh, no.
Like if the shit was really that good, the pro hormones were really that good, the best in the world, fucking jacked. You don't think these owners would be jacked out of their fucking minds if all they had to do was to take, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why I'm calling bullshit on that, right? Well, it's just a cop-out, man. Take personal responsibility for your own training, your own results. It's not always fucking easy. People need to understand that. Sometimes you'll train 3 years, go backwards.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Right? And so during that time, you know, shut up, figure out what you need to do to get better, or just move on. Maybe it's not maybe you don't want to put that much behind it. Mm-hmm. To be able to get better. And that's okay too. Go do something else.
And again, that self-awareness, they lack that ability to be self-aware of whatever the fuck. Like, I even see it with a lot of the comments, and having been here for just about a year and being gifted a lot of the amazing commenters on our fucking social media platform. There is a lot of angry people that just don't have that. They don't feel like they have that control of their own training. They're just trying to fucking put venomous shit out whatever chance that they have, you know. And Jim, I totally understand why you're not on fucking social media as much.
You know, the older I get, how do I put this? Like, I have purpose. I love my life, and I don't care about that stuff. Like, because it doesn't keep me up at night when someone says something bad to me or someone wants to. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. It's your problem, not mine.
I think some of that you get callous to it though after a while.
Yeah, but I just it's so small. Like, I don't care if someone's taking anything. I don't know why people care so much. Like, I have so much shit going on every day that I don't, but that's what I think really is a lot of times. And, you know, this maybe sound negative. Like, you gotta, like, if you had shit going on, you wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have the time.
Right.
And someone will say, well, you know, I love it because I thought about this whenever you're like, listen, you're going to have to eat more. Well, I eat more. You're going to, whatever. And then no matter what you do, they have an excuse. So I'm like, what do you want me to tell you anymore? I gave you the answer, and there's just one excuse after another. And it gets tiresome. Then you just stop, you know, I don't want to say I stopped caring, but I'm like, you can do whatever you want. Like,
it's not a care or don't care. It's just like it's neutral. Like, it just doesn't impact you one way or another.
Yeah. And so it's funny, even with like political stuff and all that, you know, I keep abreast of some things, but I'm like, whenever something happens, I tell my wife, you're not going to get any satisfaction. There's going to be no repercussions to these congressmen. Nothing's going to happen. Just let it go, because it's just killing you inside. I'm like, I always, like, whenever something happens, I'm like, you're never going to feel like you got any kind of justice. So just let it go. Just let's take care of our own family. Let's take care of our city. And when I like really stomach that, I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, that doesn't mean I like that stuff, but I'm like, I can have an impact here and do this. So let's just do that. Let's just worry about that.
Yeah. I think having, in like you had said, if you have your day full of things that mean something to you and that you truly care about, at the end of the day, like, you don't have the bandwidth. You just don't have the space mentally to.
Or even, I mean, if you do see it, you don't. You're indifferent to it. So that's what I said. To a certain degree, Jim and I are fortunate because we've been on this online thing, fucking forever. Yeah, there was a time where the shit probably pissed us off, right? 15, 20 years. Yeah. You read something, and we'd be like, man, did you see this? And then after a while, you kind of realize, do you realize the person's name is D. Ball?
Yeah.
Or Annie Var? Yeah. Like, this is probably somebody we know. This is JL. Just fucking with us. And
him and his big hands on the keyboard.
After a while, you just see so much bullshit that you just become a little callous to it. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to kind of, you scan through, because is there anything here, right? Because there could be something customer service wise. There could be something that's legit.
Well, a lot too, it's, you have, like, when I see people losing their shit about whatever, like, I just feel like I'm watching a 2-year-old. Like, you have to have kind of an emotional maturity to control yourself and be like, you know what, I don't agree with it. In fact, I really don't agree with you, but I'm not going to stomp my feet and scream and demand this out of you or demand that. I'm okay. I'm a mature adult. I can handle my emotions. I'm not going to show you everything I feel. And then once you understand and just let it go, it's like, I see so many adults throwing fits.
Hissy fits.
And it's like they don't have an emotional maturity, and it takes some time to get there. But I think a lot of it is with being coached hard. Like, you remember getting coached. Like, it's not easy. And it's not like I had drill sergeants, but man, you got motherfucked when you screwed up. And you have to be mature enough to just take it, understand that he's trying to help you. This is whatever his style of coaching, whether you like it or not, and you let it go. He doesn't hate you. And I think that had playing sports gave me a little bit of a leg up in understanding, like, listen, it's okay. I'm all right. Rather than, like we saw Juwan Howard throw a punch the other day in the handshake line during the Michigan basketball game. It's like, there's a guy who has no maturity. He let his emotions, and that doesn't mean like you can't let your emotions well up occasionally, but to resort to something so childish is beyond me.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because
it is. I don't know. Did you see the video?
I didn't see it, but
the point is, like, that's like what my kid won't even do that.
No, there's somebody dropped the ball somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Now there's some people that are mentally just. Screw loose, but still, after a while, you still know right and wrong.
Yeah, what
should go on with that,
but it's I don't know. Once you kind of realize, then when you realize it and you see it in other adults, you're like, I just don't want to. This is not someone I want to be with. I don't, I'm never going to change this person's mind. So why even care?
Well, if it's online,
it's even worse.
That's worse. It is worse, because a good friend of mine is in PR. I've been in PR's whole life, and helped me a lot in the earlier years trying to figure, a lot of this shit out, because it's not just what you say when you have a company or influence, whatever you want to call it. All of it can come back.
And what you don't say.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's every email can resurface on a forum somewhere.
Yeah.
Every DM, everything can resurface. So when I see these people just like going crazy against each other online, all I'm thinking is, first off, would you guys say this to each other if you were sitting around a table in the gym? Right. Would you, or would this conversation still entail, but it would sound way different than what this is? More than likely, they wouldn't even have the conversation, because they don't even know each other.
They wouldn't even make eye contact in the same room.
Yes. And then, are you comfortable with this coming back in your life a year or 2 years from now? Right? Because if not, then maybe you should just keep your mouth shut. Do
you remember the one rule I had when you get those nasty emails, what I used to do? Do you remember this? I would write the response, and I say, I got 24 hours. I'll set, if I feel the same way, and it's always like 30 minutes later.
Like, nah, fuck it.
And 30 minutes later, you're like, I can't believe I spent 15 minutes tapping this answer up.
So that was always my, I always had a 24-hour rule when something happened, because whenever I, quick post or whatever, it's like, it would, you'd think it would give you satisfaction. I imagine it like when you are abused as a child or something, and then years later you confront your attacker, like, are you really going to get any kind of satisfaction out of that? Or is it better that you work on yourself and just, let that part, I'm not saying let it go, but just like you work on developing strategies to cope with it. And it's always the same thing, like, and I even if there's like a million examples of this, but 10 years after the fact, like, none of those, like, you should not have sent anyone. It's not like you regretted not sending one of them. Like, boy, remember in January of 06?
Yeah.
Boy, I should have sent something.
Where they thought my squat was high.
Right? It's good. So, but I think that also comes with obviously age and maturity, which is not always age. I see, like I said, we have this couple kids in our school who are just mature beyond their years. And then you have adults throwing temper tantrums and, stomping their feet. And you're like, well, oh boy, Dave. It's when you start realizing shit, you're like, oh my God, I'm so.
I always think that you can tell the amount of adversity somebody's gone through their life based upon how they handle themselves in any adverse conditions.
Both adversity and overcoming that adversity.
Yeah.
And purpose.
Yeah.
If you have purpose, like I got, there was another strength coach who works around London who fucking hates me for some. I've never met him before, but I see him almost every day, and he walks by, gives me this death stare. I'm like, dude, like, and someone had said, he had just talked to me. He hates what you're doing with London. He doesn't agree with anything how you're coaching. And first thing I'm like, man, body weight stuff really fucking irks me. Like, I couldn't, like, what is like the big thing? And I was like, and then you just like, And my response, we've gotten a couple, obviously get some criticism. I'm like, just ask the teams we play. Tell them how ineffective our training is.
Because fucking limping off the field.
That's always funny. Usually about halfway through the third quarter, there's, 3 or 4 bodies especially on a long play, because everyone's like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I saw a kid on the opposing team, Dave, he was going to tackle our running back, who was the offensive player of the year. This kid was not the fastest kid. He was a running back, but he ran the hardest I've ever seen anyone run in my entire life, both college or pro, or whatever you want to say. He saw him coming. He stopped, turned his back, and put out his butt to tackle him. And I was like, Antoine just like didn't even like bump off him. He's just like, "What's up, fruitcake?" Jesus. Yeah. But that was his response to adversity. Stick his butt out
like a dog.
Yeah, just like
wagging his
Go
tail.
ahead and mount me. I'll be your bitch.
Wow.
But anyway, I don't know why I brought that. It's just very funny. Anyway, sorry. That's a testament to Antoine. Whew. All right.
So how has, kind of pivoting a little bit, how has your training, your personal training, because you were out here for the UGSS.
Yes.
And you were weighted vest, pull-ups, push-ups. Squats.
Yep.
You and Vincent.
Stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
It was fucking cool to see. What's your training looking like now? Still the walrus stuff?
Yeah, since May 1st, I've done except for 2 weeks where I was sick, I have done a Murph every day. Now the last 4 weeks or something, I just do basically 2 Murphs in one day. And then I do some more calisthenic stuff. I've been doing a lot of 2-count burpees, which is like a burpee with 2 push-ups for my hips, because when we started doing as part of our warm-up burpees, that was the best hip mobility thing I've ever done with the kids. And it sounds stupid, but if you actually see how we do them, the kids are almost below parallel every time. And we had the greatest impact on our squat depth through that, because it's a dynamic
loaded stretches.
Yeah. And it forces the kids to do it right. So I've been doing that. So so basically one day is with a weight vest and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then I do usually 200 2-count burpees, or whatever you want to call them, 8, I don't know, with 2 push-ups in there. Mm-hmm. And I usually walk 5 miles a day too. But the walk, it's funny because I started the walk when I re-injured my back, and I re-injured it. Now, Dave, it is the only, it is the highlight of my wife and I. Like, my wife and I are the most honest parents. Like, fucking kids, I hate all of them. Everything just fucking kid drive you nuts, man. Imagine how many ski-doos we would have. Like, I don't even like them. I'd fucking buy them because we have so much more money. But that's why I love is, like, my wife and I are very, and we love, I mean, my wife is a tremendous mother and a great wife, but, like, we have a good honesty. So, like, that walk, each of us take a walk during the day, and that's just like, you just clear your head and you put on your headphones, or I'll call my mom and dad and have a good conversation, or Mason and I will talk. And it's just been, I don't really count that as exercise. I mean, I guess when I had my back issues, that was an exercise, but that's just more of a kind of dumping your brain out. And when Rhodes and Vincent get here, we do tons. We do maybe 2 5-mile walks a day, and we just discuss everything. And that's where you get a lot of ideas, or you just bullshit and tell stupid stories. It's way better than sitting around talking or watching TV because you don't really do anything. And anyway, that's what I've been doing. It's been the one thing that has changed is when I say May 1st, that's when I started. It just happened to fall on that day. It wasn't like I planned any of that. But what happened was I got to the point where all the injuries, and I have 3 hernias, and I couldn't push any weight, even if it was lightweight hard. Like, I was like, fuck, I'm just going to do 135 and see if I can do it for 10 minutes. I just couldn't, like, my back couldn't handle it, or, you feel. And so you're like, well, you could do 315 for 3 sets of 3, but I'm like, but I'm not training hard. Does this make sense? So it's just like you with the high box squat.
Yeah, you got to figure it out.
I had to find something that I could fucking push myself. But the original thing, so I can push fucking hard, be absolutely miserable, and I love it. Like, I want to be able to, it doesn't mean I'm puking, but I am pushing hard. I needed something to push hard. And the other thing is, the initial thing was I was mad about my lack of discipline in other areas of my life, and I was fucking furious with myself. I was disgusted with who I was. And I'm not saying I was like a sloth, but I have incredibly high standards. And I talk about this too. This is the number one thing I think you need to be a good coach, is you have to hold yourself to the highest standards possible, even higher than what you hold the kids in, because you need to be both a representative, like when kids see, because I lift in my garage, kids see it all the time when they drive by, but you also act differently when you have high degrees of discipline. So my initial month, I'm like, I'm just going to do this for a month, it wasn't about the training, it was about the discipline. Because man, my hands were fucking torn up. And every morning I get out of bed, I put my legs out, and I would stand up, and my legs would start shaking like this, and I'd sit back down, and I'd stand up, like I couldn't even walk. It was, I had like the Elvis legs. And I'm like, well, I just do a couple stretches, do some yoga, and then I go out in the weight room and start it all over again. So it wasn't about the training so much as was the discipline about doing something that was miserable. And then you just get better at it, and you kind of thrive in it. And so that's been, and it was funny because I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but there was people continuously ask me, how did you get over that? Like bench, squat, deadlift, and all, right? Like, get away from that world. Like,
the strength world.
Yeah. Okay, how did you reconcile how you're training now? And I had, on that day, I finally was so fucking sick of myself and what I was becoming that there was no other option to me, and I never fucking looked back. I never see like a barbell and be like, oh boy, I wish I could squat, because I'm so believe in so much of what I'm doing that it's just like when we were training, there was nothing. You could show me the greatest program in the world or whatever. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I know what I'm doing is right. I believed in what I was doing. I had I was blinded. Yeah. And it's not in a bad way, because I'm still doing all these great movements. I'm training hard. But I think it's like when people ask, when should I use chains and bands? And my answer eventually became, when you stop asking. And then you'll know. Because if you have any doubt, there is a doubt. And I got to the point where I'm like, listen, this is the only thing, like, this is what I believe in. I am 1000% behind this. And even reading I always read and training stuff or whatever. I never wavered. I never well, maybe I should add in some trap bar, or, maybe I'm like, nope, there's nothing better than what I'm doing now. I will pound my shit in the ground. And with that belief, guess what happens? You have success. Because how many people have had pretty shitty training programs in whatever opinion your training program, and they're successful. They go 100% and they believe in what they're doing. And so it was a weird thing where it's like, I guess I read a lot of stuff about psychology, and then I was reading about addiction. And it's always like, well, when do you hit your rock bottom? It's like, well, that's your choice. Like you're done with this drug. I mean, obviously you have issues, but it has to be such a point in your life where that's the only option that in your brain. If you have any doubts or like, well, we'll see how I do.
Yeah,
Things
you're not
never
there
be
yet.
successful. You're not there yet. And so I'm not equating this to a heroin addiction or opiate addiction. I'm just saying that the same kind of idea applies. I was just fucking done. I was done not living up to the standards I believed I should have physically. And then remarkably, when I'm because I was training 2 or 3 times a day in the beginning, everything else got better because I was structured. I had a plan, and I can't tell you how many times I went in that weight room. I mean, hands were fucked up from all the chin-ups, and my shoulders feels horrible. I'm like, I don't care. I know I will my body to be better. And like I tore my left shoulder's torn up, but I can do push-ups, and the more push-ups I do, the better it gets. So I just do, I did 400 push-ups today as part of my training, and I'll do 400, 500 tomorrow. And God, the amount of squats I do. It's funny when you spend 30 years of your life being explosive. We talk about you can't catch up. Like I suck at this. It's embarrassing how bad I am with this kind of endurance, weight vest stuff. And people ask me do you want to do, would you do a Memorial Day Murph or something? Or I'm like, I don't care. Like, I know I'm not going to be good, but I will outwork you 364 days out of the year with this.
So the question that they're asking you about the powerlifting and all that, they're insinuating that you have to lean away from it, right? Where what you were doing was leaning into something different.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's where I see the disconnect with people.
Yeah. I took the same insanity. I need that. I need insanity.
It has to be hard.
It has to be hard. And if I can't do something hard, I just don't.
What's the point? I mean,
yeah. Well, it's the whole thing. And I remember even when I stopped going to West Side, people were like, well, why don't you try and squat 1,050? I'm like, because I don't want to squat 1,050. Why? Like, what's the difference? It doesn't mean anything to me. And so I was like, I'm just ready to change. Like, if I know I'm ready to change, I just go. Like I don't want to hang on to the past. I see that all the time, especially when maybe the first 10 years I stopped playing football, people were really holding on. Man, I stopped playing on Thursday. That was our last game against Arizona State. By Sunday, I had already mapped out my first month of training for powerlifting. I'm like, I'm fucking ready to go. Let's go. I had the food listed out. Like, I'm done. Well,
I'm laughing, man, because when you squatted $1,000 in that meet, right?
Yeah.
So he squats $1,000 in the meet. That's all he wanted to do in powerlifting. I knew this.
And then you just threw all his shit away.
Maybe Rhodes knew it, and maybe one other person, but nobody else fucking knew this, right? And he's just like, I'm done, right? And then Louie and Chuck and everybody was like, what the hell? What the fuck? And I mean, they legitimately were pissed about this. I'm like, look, he said this. This is what he wanted to do. He did it, and he's done. Oh, do you think he's really done? I'm like, yes, I do.
100%.
Yeah. Well, you need to talk to him. I'm like, what? About what?
Why don't you not be done?
Yeah, we talked to the dude to get a 1,000-pound squatter here, right?
Yeah.
So it's just fucking funny though, because it was already mapped out. I mean, he already had what he wanted to do kind of laid out in front of him, and looking forward to it. It's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about squatting 10-10.
Yeah. Well, come on. It's funny because I look back and the amount, like when we talk about JL, he's just a big human being. When you see like Mike Miller was a big human being, and just like Thor and those guys. I'm not built like that. Dave's like, look at Dave's wrists and knees, and I the amount of work it took and sacrifice to get to 1,000. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's one thing, if you have that genetic capability, and obviously I have some good genetics, not squatting a grand without some kind of good genetics, but it was just like, fuck. I knew, like, it's just like I remember playing football. My dad asked me this one time. He's like, "Do you think you can go back and do what you did?" And I'm like, with my mentality, no, because I would have died for it. And, you know how if you interview Olympic athletes, they say something like, would you give up 20 years of your life for a gold medal? Like 85% people say, yeah. And then people are like, can you believe that? I'm like, nah, I totally get it. Like, if you would have said, listen, for example, you will start 4 years, win a national championship, be the featured fullback, get a, whatever, not go pro. Would you die at 50? There's 100% chance I would have taken the deal at a big time college. No, yeah, there's no way I wouldn't.
I would have for powerlifting. It's the weird thing with that, and I don't know who we had on the podcast, but we were discussing this, is
I'm not proud of that, by the way. I'm just saying that was the mentality.
I mean, that was my mentality for a long time. I mean, it's the same thing. And there's no doubt I took years off my life. Like I took, bones out of my body. So, I mean, there's no doubt
like to
that
put
I took
a bone in.
Yeah,
I was like, Jim, hit it.
Where it fucks with me a little bit is if I'm looking at a new challenge now, no matter what it is, if it's business or whatever, I know what that all in is.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And I know what it does to my family. I know what it does to my friends. I know what it does, to everybody else. And I don't want to say scared, but very, very, very hesitant to, I'll go 90%. I'll go 95. Now, granted, that's probably more than most people's 50 or whatever it's going to be. But that 100, man.
Yeah, it starts.
I don't know.
There's a reason why CEOs are assholes.
No, I know.
Of major,
Oh, I try, but it's just, even with that though, there's that 100%, like, do I want to go
that
I
hard?
know I've been there. You see, I've been there. I know not my sacrifice, but I know my family sacrifices. I know, the discipline, the time, the work, the effort. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's unless you've been there, and actually willing to die for it. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, because I did shit that probably should have fucking killed me, but no doubt, it's a weird thing now.
When and it is funny because I was talking to my dad and I was like, the shittiest thing about life is you only get one. And I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm like, I think of all the stuff I could have done at a certain crossroads in my life. Now I wouldn't be where I am today, and you could have never convinced me at that time to take this road. But I'm like, God, I could have done this physically, and I could have went over here and done this, and my life would be, and I'm not regretting anything. It's just, man, it would be fun to do, to get to a certain point. I'm not saying from age
I get
0, but maybe like at 12, you're like, all right, and you got a plan in place, and it'd be fun to go through again. But it's hard, living with some decisions. I don't regret it though. I never.
No, because it gets you to where you are now.
Yeah, so, but I did everything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, I'm like, I did it, and I'm super. That's one thing I know a lot of guys who don't feel like that, and they feel, you can hear it in their voice, and I'm like, man, yeah, I wish I could have done this and that. Looking back now, but back then, this is what I.
But you didn't know.
No, I know what I'm saying. I'm a different person, but I always think, like, in my head, like, man, it would have been cool to do.
You can blame yourself for being stupid, right? But you can't blame yourself for being ignorant.
And if I would have went that route, whatever, I would be like, man, imagine if I could have squatted a grand. I think I could have done it, or who knows? So, but it's still, I just turned 47, and I've told my wife, ever since I started training like this, I feel like a completely different person. Not just physically, obviously I feel better, but I just have like I don't care about my age. Like, it just gives me more steam. I'm like, fuck this. I will beat this. I mean, he's Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah, you can't beat the Reaper.
I will do whatever I can to live the best life that I can and push myself, because I am a different person now since doing training like this. And I'm a better person. Like, I'm a better husband, because I have that insanity taken care of because I'm just restless if I don't have insanity. And especially, you guys know, like the physical stuff, just to get under 1,000 pounds or take off 600 pounds on the bench, man, holy shit. Like, you got to be a little stupid.
Of course.
And it's funny because I think about, I never worried about anything. I'm like, this is supposed to happen. And like, one day I did 1,000 squats and 500 push-ups, and I wasn't even sore the next day I had a vest on, and I was like, what was I thinking? And I was like, this sounds like a great fucking, sounds good to me.
Well, it probably just hit you. Like, can I? Yeah. It probably started with, could I do?
Yeah,
and that's where you're fucked from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, the funny part is can I do?
You're fucked.
Started with 150 push-ups in a day, whatever it was, and then because and I look back at some of the stuff I was doing before May 1st, before I really made the commitment. I was like, oh my God, I do that in like 10 minutes now. And so I try to explain this to the kids, is like your perception of what is amazing has to change. Like doing 2 push or pull-ups is not as, I'm glad that you did them, but 20 is way better. You have to expand your mind. All of a sudden the kids are doing, we did circuit training for our assistants. It keeps everything, so you press, maybe do some rows and lunges or something. We did sets of 50 on the body weight squat one day, and you could hear a pin drop when I announced it. Everyone's like, oh. Afterwards, like, man, I didn't know I could do that, but holy shit. I'm like, yeah, it's easy. And this is, so I think that's the other thing I've noticed with this is you start to see what's possible. It's like the 4-minute mile when Roger Bannister did it. No one had ever done it. The next year, like 17 people did it. Yep. And now it's like normal in high school to have a couple of kids run under, 4-minute mile. So I think it's been fun. And I love the challenge, Dave. Oh my God. And it's horrible because you're exactly right. You're sitting up at night, it's like, what if?
That's the worst thing, man.
I thought like if every 2 hours I did half of a Murph or something. I'm like, I wonder if I could last 24 hours.
Well, this is where I was going to ask about your progression.
Thinking, what would my wife, could she figure out the timing of the food?
That's when
James has swimming. She's going to have to take care of that. But she's going to be gone for the Gatorade bath.
The suppository.
Yeah. So it's been, and then that's when you start going off the rails. And it's good. Like you need to go off the rails a little bit.
Yes.
It's that level of commitment. Like you just committed to it.
Yeah,
like this is.
And I think that's super important.
Not knowing if you can do it, I think plays a little role in it too, right? Because it's you against you, and for me, I need that somehow, and just that little bit of I don't know is, in me, it's like, what the fuck did you just tell yourself? You are a piece of shit. Yeah. And then it starts. Then it's like, okay. What's the logical approach of doing this?
Yes.
So not can I do or not do it, but where you started with 150, it's like, where can I start? And not fuck myself up so bad that I'm off the rails. Like it's going and then crash. It's going, crash, which typically happens to me anyhow. But how can I only crash twice?
Yeah. Well, you find that tipping point and you go right there. And then, but the problem is before you do that, you've gone.
How that
you've
works.
Gone over here.
Well, I was going to say,
and then you're like, go right back to it.
I mean, we kind of learned that as teenagers that just the tip thing.
Yeah,
never
that's right.
The tip.
I swear it doesn't count. Jesus still loves you.
So you said you're just feeling better, like the aches and pains are kind of
I don't have any like surprisingly my knees aren't. Like for all the squats that I do a day, I have no knee pain. I also wear knee sleeves, which make a huge difference. We just started selling knee sleeves, by the way. I love them.
I was going to pimp him out. So he's got knee sleeves on JimWendler.com, by the way.
How are they good? And I'm not...
He's got apparel, too. That's how he actually lives his life. So buy his apparel. I bought something the other day that probably it's probably going to get me thrown out of Walmart. He always has designs in there that I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure what this means.
What does it
but
say?
I know Jim, and I kind of have an idea what it means.
This is his cancel collection.
And this is definitely, he's had that for real.
By the way, we have a discount code for everyone here called Elite.
I know she said that's a text message.
It's my wife. Yeah, Elite 15, ELITE 15. There we go. So
JimWendler.com, ELITE 1-5?
Yeah. She told me, she's like, listen, I'm on the school board. You don't say anything, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got to be cool about that.
I don't fucking care.
We'll keep that for off.
Boy, what a...
That's a good thing she's on the school boards. Just put it that way.
Well, you know, I remember when I was in high school, my, I don't know, I guess you call him history or something teacher, he always said the people who should be in charge, who should be president, shouldn't want to be president. And you saw that in the movie Gladiator, when Marcus Aurelius says, he goes, you know, you have to, you're my successor. He's like, I don't want to be your successor. I just want to go farm. He's like, well, that's why you have to be the successor, because you don't want it. And she did not really want to do this. It wasn't, you know, power or politically motivated or anything like that. She's like, we have to do what's best for the, you know, our town, our kids, and so it's been. It takes. I couldn't imagine being in like a giant school district, the amount of, because even at a small, it is a daily thing, and it's just like, holy cow. And I think they don't get paid, or if they do, it's like $10 or something like that, but.
It's a good thing, though, man, because over the past couple of years, I think a lot of people have realized they need to engage in the local politics. Forget about federal and state.
Yeah, you're not making it. Yeah,
they need to engage into what they can, you know, do. And a lot of people didn't like what was going on. So she's not. I mean, there's probably 8 people that I know that never had any political aspirations at all. And they're like, you know what? I can sit here and bitch, or I can try to do something.
That was
you know, and
boy, I wish more people would take that attitude. Good people, I should say. But ironically, the good people are the ones doing the putting forth.
Well, so many people have a past too.
Yeah.
So you get into big politics, you got to deal with that. Yeah. So if you can't deal with somebody not liking your Instagram post, politics is not for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Oh God, can you?
Oh my God. Yes.
I always think like I don't know if they're still relevant or anything, but like the amount of hate Kim Kardashian must get. I'm like, does she ever read any of this? Because man, her self-esteem has got to be, or it, you know, she just doesn't care, and you know, I assume that's what it is. But it's like, God, they must get so much. Like let's put it this way: like Brad Pitt, people are like, he's ugly. I'm like, really? If Brad Pitt's ugly, what the fuck are all we? Like, I don't know. It's just very funny to me that some of these, how much these people deal with, and obviously, you know, in their case, they're getting paid a ton of money, but I don't know. It's a weird world. It's funny because I think when we started doing the Q&As, we posted what
came in.
Well, we posted what we wanted to put up too. If there was some kind of crappy question or someone being rude, you just let
if you're wondering, there are still crappy questions that come in.
Well, I know, but they're out there right there. Like you know, and so you know, occasionally you get a couple that were very critical and start yelling at you, and you don't have to put them up. And now it's like it's for all to see, and it's just warts and all. And like you said, I think a lot of these people, I would assume, regret, especially years down the line. Like, oh God.
I know they do. I know they do, because just with the old Q&A, there were, and then they weren't bad posts at all, but there were people that would move up in their company, you know, to C-suite, and they wanted all their Q&As taken off because they wanted to erase their meathead background because it was hurting them in the boardroom, and then others would have political aspirations, and you'd have to go take all those down, and it's like, well, you know, it wasn't a hard thing to do, but at the same time, it's like, you know, for me, it's a weird thing. It is, because to me, you're just going to be another big piece of shit like everybody else that's already in there. Yeah. You know, because you're already being coerced and you don't even have it yet. Like, imagine what happens when you're there. You know, it's like, so, but most of the time it's not. But I do. I get it. And these are people you wouldn't expect this from.
Yeah, I don't even want to know.
Yeah, just crazy stuff.
I love not knowing. That's a huge fan of not knowing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's like everyone wants to know stuff. Man, I don't want to know.
No.
I'm okay. I just
You're good.
I want to think of my mom a certain way, and that's fine. Or whatever. I don't need to know.
It's weird. The internet is commenting about my mom all the time. Yeah.
He's still in this weird phase where if we post that he did a multiply meet. Just kind of fucking around. So we'll post a squat. And it's like, they're like, go Sam, go. It's like, the fuck?
Was it your mom?
Was it? Well, here's what I figured out, right? Either he's so likable that it's impossible to troll him. You know, but that's not true.
That's definitely not true.
It comes out in the.
They're like, why'd you hire Bill Burr?
But he hasn't squatted enough yet. So as soon as he hits 800 with that suit, everything's high. What are you squatting so wide for? You know, the things that they call wide squat stances anymore are funnier than hell to me. Anything wider than the shoulder blades.
Yeah, right.
What's up with that plie wide shit? Like,
well, they call it sumo squatting.
I've seen that. I've seen that a ton pop up just even the last couple of weeks.
Oh my God, it's so stupid.
Yeah, and
I saw a news reporter. It was he was outside, like on the street corner. I don't know what he was talking about. I remember, but his mom pulled up, like, honey, honey. She's like, that's my mom.
Yes.
And like my mom would have done the same thing, man. Jimmy!
Yeah.
Fucking both hands out the window.
He doesn't hear us. Say it louder.
Tracy would do that for my kids. If it was me, I would go down the other street.
I would do some dry humping if my son was on.
Did you just say dry humping?
Yeah, dry.
Yeah, I don't want to get wet humping.
Yeah. What are you, a pecker checker over there, Dave? Jeez Louise. You know I go in dry.
You can use my pillow discount code.
Yeah.
MeUndies. So yeah, I think I mean we've gone over quite a bit in terms of the values at which you've been kind of upholding with your training and your own personal life, your personal accountability and whatnot. I think one of the things that a lot of people have been kind of wanting to know about is how did the Q&As and the podcast, like in this sort of kind of medium, begin? I mean, we're 100 episodes in, which is fucking crazy. We broke 1 million downloads, which is insane. I think people just kind of want to hear history of like the Q&As. Like you guys just were just like one day you're like, hey, we're getting a bunch of questions. Let's fucking answer these.
I'll start it. Right. So I'll bring it to where he came in. So I was doing seminars for Louie and stuff like that. And I had a little magazine ad in Powerlifting USA for like Tribulus, and then creatine, sled. There's like 3 things. And then from that, I went to do a seminar in South Carolina. Donnie Thompson was actually at the seminar. And then the person I met at the seminar, Ken, who still works for us now, mentioned something about a website, Q&A and all this kind of stuff. So at that time, I was answering questions on deepsquatter.com. And I know what my limitations are. And oddly enough, over 25 years, I haven't made them better. My spelling and grammar is a little better.
It was it's way better.
It's way better now. It was bad. It was bad, right? So anyway, it was bad.
Fucking Jason Burnell. I know he's listening right now. You got to edit better, buddy, when Dave's writing.
No, it was bad. It was bad.
Now, when I first met Dave, he was doing a seminar, and we took a break, and we started talking like, dude, I gotta tell you something. You gotta change.
That was the slides, man.
You gotta change to a couple of those slides.
Yeah. I was using.
I never met him. I'm like, hey, listen, we gotta work on this stuff.
I was using quotations instead of the little bracket things.
Yeah. When everything was very
political.
It was bad. It was bad. So
anyway, okay, go ahead.
So we had the Q&A. So I was running with that, and at the time it was just Ask Dave, because it was basically taking Jason's thing and then putting on our site to where if I answered the question, it would populate in real time, so it would post immediately. And then I was going through I had a business mentorship program I was going through at the time, and they're trying to push me away and say, you need to have other people and not just you on the Q&A. And I'm like, the fuck, that it's called
Ask Dave. Gonna have to rebrand everything.
How's this work? And so from that, I brought in Bob Youngs. I think he was first.
Yep.
And then Buddy Morris and
Danny Blankenship.
A couple other ones just to be able to help with some of the questions. And then I went to Kentucky to do a consult thing, and that's where I met Jim, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I met Dave there, and that must have been in the summertime. And then Dave had the IPA Nationals in Columbus, November? This must have been in 2000, right?
The fall, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was in 2000. and I competed there as my first powerlifting meet. And I thought I did very well. I opened up with like 700. I had no idea what I could do. I had no idea. I opened up with 700, and it was like, oh, it was so easy. I did 775, and then like 825. And anyway, I was so excited. I'm like, 825, and then that's back when we were the
these squats are ridiculous though.
The France Polys. And whatever. The point being is, it was a good meet for me, and I was super positive and stuff. And then we probably came home. Geez, was that a 2-day meet or a 3-day meet?
2-day.
Yeah, it was an awesome meet. Dave put on the best meets in the history of powerlifting. And I'm not the only one that says that. That is a 100%. You talk about, Lori worked there, Tracy was there. You saw in their faces because they've been there for more than just 2 days. They were just like, they looked like they were POWs.
Yeah,
like,
walking wounded.
It's like after this, they're like, never do this to us again.
And anyway, I think the next week Dave called me up. He's like, you want to be on the Q&A? I'm like, Dave, I didn't total elite. I was like 40 pounds off or whatever it was. He's like, yeah, you did good. And plus, you're a coach and all that stuff. So that's when it started. And then it was funny because when Louis was doing seminars, Dave would come along. And then Dave started doing seminars and people were mad. Where's Louis? Mm-hmm. And then I went on all the seminars with Dave. And then eventually I would do the seminars like, well, where's Dave? And then it was like,
with Louis.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not here. And then it became like I would just do the seminars. It was just like a really weird passing of the baton with all that stuff. But, I remember like probably the first year and a half, 2 years, it was like, just couldn't wait to get a question. If it was addressed to me, I'd be super excited because they were more like general questions. A lot of stuff I didn't have a terrible amount of experience of because at the time it was almost all powerlifting. Mm-hmm. And, occasionally you get a question here and there. And then it snowballed. And I don't think, we've said this a million times, but I don't think people realize how much work was put on over a long period of time. The amount of just questions, and like I took phone calls for, I'm not saying like I was a genius, but I'm like, just, give me your number. I'll call you up and see what's going on. And just different stuff like that. And it went and it went. And we went from, there'd be a big cache of questions. And if it was overrun, there'd be like 22, like 3 pages. And you get to the third page, there's only 2. Because there was 10 per page or something, you kind of look. And then before you know it, it's 30 pages, and then 40, and then 120, and then it was 5. It just built up and built up, and it was an awesome time because I was learning a ton. And that's one of the things when you do all those Q&As and stuff, you learn so much more because all of a sudden you have a new problem and you're like, oh my God, or you had the same problem and you're like, well, sure, I just did something different and fixed it, or, it's right. Kevin DeWeese, when he did this, things changed. And so it's just like it's a great way of ironing out your thoughts. And, the best thing you can do is like, I always tell people, write your own book. You don't have to sell it. And then you get all these ideas down and try to explain them. I always say, I always wrote every book to my teenage kid. Like my son, I'm like, my son should be able to read most of this and understand it. And so it just irons everything out in your head. And plus, man, like I felt like, and it's funny because even at a young age, I got, just like Dave had people helping you out. I had people helping me out from a young age, and then Dave was helping me out, and then Louis was, helping me out. And it's like, now I can kind of help out too. And there is a big ego thing. I wasn't like, but I'll do it for the masses. Like, yeah, if someone asked me a question and you feel like, it's an awesome honor. But, it's not like I said, it wasn't like so altruistic. Like it was, alms for the poor. You know what I mean? So, but it was, and it's funny because I look back and, I was just thinking about Bob and stuff. And, I haven't seen Danny in forever. And, I haven't talked to Martin. It was just like we didn't know how special the time was until you look back.
And who was a part, because you had Martin, Rooney, you had DeFranco, and
you had all these different guys.
Joe Ken, Buddy Morris. Thomas Linsky, yourself, Mark Bell. I mean, there's a lot of different people. There's a million questions, over a million questions, that all I need to do is put the URL back on the website because it's still there. I mean, you can find it, but I don't want traffic going to it, you know, until there's things that are broke that we need to fix and stuff like that. But
you never know what's going to be awesome. Like I remember 122 South Main Street. I don't know how many times I fucking said that to someone. That was the old place, and there's no air conditioning there. Like it was funny because it was fucking hot in there, especially when you're 275 pounds.
Fucking working. We got no fucking shirts on.
Just packing. I remember boxing stuff up in my sweat. I'm like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Sucks for him.
Fucking chew all over the fucking chest hair. Keyboards were all brown stained.
Just gross. It was an awesome time. I mean, it was not. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal. I mean,
no,
but you look back on it, and just like when you go through two-a-days, you have some fond memories of, something that maybe wasn't terribly fun, but it was, it's crazy. I always think like, I grew up just outside of Chicago, and just through a series of squats and the internet, like just now I live in London, Ohio because of you, because you took a trip to see Todd or something. Whatever, you always liked this place.
Oh yeah, here, Todd, yeah. Todd's,
Dad. And so
I had to get out of downtown Columbus. I'm like, I got to get out of here.
It's just funny.
Same thing, like you're.
Yeah, I was like,
It was good for a while, but I'm done.
Yeah, and so there's like a little weird stuff, and it's a very cool how it all came together, and the Q&As was fun, man. I mean, especially if you. Just sitting at home, you're like, I gotta.
See, I needed somebody to edit the articles, and we didn't have a lot of articles at the time. There might have been 4 a month maybe, and 2 of them were just reposting from T Nation.
Yeah, right.
But the 2 that we did have, and he's got an English major or something like that, journalism, and he knows how to spell and write better than I do.
He done right real good.
I know to press return twice.
Well, and it helped me a lot.
That's a new thought.
It helped me a lot because those Q&As.
Commas are a thing.
The Q&As did make me a better writer. Made me to write. It made me write more concise because when you answer the same question 200 times, you get to just the meat of what the answer is. Yep. The first time you're like, okay, I'm going to show everybody how smart I am. You got 5 paragraphs.
The ATP diagram.
Yes.
And then finally it's
Krebs cycle.
Just squat.
Like fucking squat.
Give more effort, fatty.
You breathe fat.
Yeah. That's right. So we had that. And then I'm trying to think with the table talk. There were, and it was going back to that same old place. We did record some interviews. I think Jim did 1 or 2, and I did maybe 4 or 5 just on the phone, and then posted them. And then we realized, oh shit, can't do this on the internet. The bandwidth was just too much, man. It was killing our site. And so we pulled out of that. And then the podcast, I think the podcast originally was started by Steve Colescott wanted to do some iron subculture thing. And that drove me fucking crazy. It did, because it took 6 months to do an episode. I mean, this is fucking ridiculous, whatever this is. It's terrible. And I later find out that he's trying to do all the audio editing manually and taking out the I'm lengthy, so trying to
make things more concise,
with jump cuts and shit like that. I'm like, this is just a fucking 2 people are going to listen to this, man. You're putting a month into it. So then Mark Watts started the sport performance one. So I would say that's kind of where it really started. And then there was I used to answer questions on the treadmill, called it From the Mill, right? Because I was so busy. I couldn't sit down and answer normally.
It made sure that you had it on 2.0.
Yeah, so yes.
Anything over 2.5.
Just sub that.
Yeah. So I'd have my phone, or the camera or whatever, filming that. And then I quit dieting. And I'm like, well, fuck, I ain't going to walk on a treadmill if I don't have to. Fuck that.
I can sit and do this?
I'm going to do this at the table, man. We're going to call this a table talk. And that's kind of where that went. But it's always been different.
I got out of shape from walking on the treadmill.
I'd sit down.
You should have forced yourself to answer 5 questions a day
on the treadmill.
Yeah, then you would have been in better shape.
Exactly. I would have stayed in shape when we came back up.
Or you could have went the other way. It's just like moon pies and talks. Like that's all you
Exactly. You could have. I could still go the other way.
I still remember doing that North Carolina seminar, and the guys were snoring while they were awake. I'll never forget that. I remember looking, like, blah, 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 blah.
I think they call that walking apnea.
And they were looking right at me. I'm like, oh, boy.
We can always have a few, man. It's
Dave told me, hey, dude, some guy told me, like, he's going to kill you. He's going to kick your ass. I'm like, what? He's like, you said something rude to him, dude. I was like, who? He's like, I don't know. I don't see him here, but he's here. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm getting my ass kicked. I love getting, it was no one there. He was just busting my balls. It was awesome. I knew it wasn't the snoring guys.
No, it's the seminars were, man.
Oh my God. There was, I think, 2 or 3 of those guys in the group, and at least 2 were snoring. Meaning there was 3 guys, I think. But that was amazing. Like,
there are always a couple sleepers, though, because they were only there for the training stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, fuck this train. They're not interested in the conjugate.
Yeah, right.
They just want to fucking squat.
Yeah.
So they just, like, sleep through that shit. And
well, I don't think they meant to.
Well, I don't think so either. But we
were
were
a
asking
systemic
a lot.
response.
I loved those North Carolina seminars. Were great. I loved going there.
Was that like the first ones that you guys did together, or?
It's probably fair. It was well, Jeff Connors.
You're talking that one. That's different. Yeah, I know. That was crazy, man, because we do these seminars, right? Most of them were bootstrapped. And that's assuming we had boots. Most of them were like just sandals. We're sharing hotel rooms with no fucking heat, air conditioning, and sleeping in fucking people's houses that are hosting.
I feel like a punk band just starting out.
Yeah. So literally we would go from that and like sharing a fucking cheeseburger at McDonald's at the airport to the next week being in University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Beautiful.
And be like,
beautiful.
And I'm sitting there the whole time like, how the fuck do I get here?
I'm way too sweaty for this building.
Every seminar. Because I slept under a fucking deer head last week in somebody's bedroom.
Fucking flies.
So
it was recently cut.
Yeah, crazy, man. The dude dude and his wife slept on his couch so I could sleep in their bed, which was weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Then the next
kid
week
goes in
like,
there and snuggles.
Yeah, go ahead and go to the lounge and make your sandwich or whatever. Like, we eat? Like, eat.
I can have crazy. 2 pieces of bread.
Different worlds, man. It's like, we're just the fucking power lifters here. But
so, which one was if you had to look back, which ones were your absolute favorite? I know you had said North Carolina ones, but like, what were the ones that you really just remember the absolute most?
Well, would I remember the most? Well, because he had the shits horrible. Because I took him out to eat to this place I always ate, and he fucking was miserable. The one that I'll never forget, and I think it was in Virginia.
Oh no!
And
how are you gonna tell? How are we gonna tell this without?
It doesn't matter. Fucking care.
Who cares? All right.
I'm not on the school board.
We've already got 100. We're good.
Oh, okay.
I think that was there. Anyway, to make a long story short, the way we used to do seminars was you would call us up and say, hey, I'd like to have you guys for a seminar, and you would collect all the money. So the onus would be on you, all that other good stuff. So we flew there, and he's like, listen, we got to stop by our house to, I'll get you the money, or whatever it was. It was money and something else. So we go to the house, and he's like, go have a seat. I'll go get the money, or whatever it was. And we're sitting on the couch, and this lady walks out in like her fucking bathrobe. And she's like, hey, and then she just kept on walking.
It wasn't a bathrobe. It was a giant sundress.
Yeah.
Just think, how can I say this?
She was just out of the shower, though.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't even have my face on. And then so she like, it's like
she had to be 60-something.
So yeah, hold on, you just ruined the joke.
No, I go.
So it's like an apparition, like, with flowing robe. And you're like, oh my God. And it was so uncomfortable. I don't know anything, I'm just happy. Like, I could tell you another story too about Dave leaving me out to fucking dry with another guy. That was in Chicago.
Making a note of that one.
But anyway, so she goes and walks through, and I look at Dave, I'm like, he lives with his mom? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I didn't know. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, she's just walking through here in her nightgown and all. And then he comes out. The guy comes out and gives Dave the money or whatever it was. And
oh my God.
We're talking, and she comes out, and he's like, hey. And this guy must have been late 20s, early 30s. His wife might have been 60 years old. And he's like, you meet my wife? And I was like, no, God, keep it in, Wendler. Don't look at Dave. Don't look at Dave. Keep it in. Don't look at Dave. And I was like, yeah, guess I did.
That was one of those things when you walk out of the house.
Yeah.
The dude's still with us, right? And so it's like under your breath as slightly as I could to Jim. And I'm just like,
you saw that, right?
And it wasn't even that. It was just like, dude. It was just like a simple dude. And it was just like, you couldn't, it's going to pass. It's like the hiccups, man. I want to laugh so bad. But it's going to pass.
It could have been his grandma. That's what it was.
The ghost of erections past.
Yeah, it was just such an odd, because she just like floated by and she's like, hey, and it was like,
floated by.
I don't even have any makeup on. I was like, I don't know if that's a fucking problem here.
Don't step on your tit.
Another one. We had a mutual friend in Arizona, and I'll never forget this. He picked us up at the airport, and I had not known him when I was there, but he trained at the same gym. He was just like got there 3 months after I had left Arizona. And he's the kind of guy that within 2 minutes, everyone was like, he's a very friendly guy. He'd bust your balls, you'd bust him right. It was like best friends forever. And he was driving us. This was in Tucson, and he says, "Yeah, I've been clean and stuff. I haven't taken any drugs. I feel pretty good." And we're talking. Then like 10 minutes later, he's like, he mentions he's taking 500 milligrams of test a week. And I'm like, I won't say his name. I said, dude, I thought you said you were clean. He's like, oh, come on, man, 500 milligrams is clean. But he kept on driving like, what are you, an idiot? And then we went out to a bar that we used to always go to. I'll never forget this. Some lady, girl, I should say, she was probably in her 20s or something, came up to me, and it was a small dive bar, and music was really loud. And you ever hear the music just happened to go off, and everyone got real quiet? It's like a weird. It happens in lunchrooms all the time.
Right.
It's not planned. Right before it got quiet, she's like, "Are you gonna buy me a drink?" And I was like, as soon as it just went down, like, honey, your ass is way too fat for me to buy you a drink, and or way too fat to have an attitude like that. And everyone, it's like the record scratch, turned around, and she was so mad. And I was like, what? Oh, no, just, honey, your ass is way too fat for that attitude. Buy you a drink, please.
There was one that's, God, there's a lot of them. There was one that, the seminar part, and I believe it was probably one of Jim's first ones that he did. Because I knew going into it, I wasn't doing shit. So here's this. It
was the Florida one. Is that what you're talking about?
It was a church. All I know is it was a church.
That was, yes.
And all I was thinking is that I was trying not to put two things together.
How did you not get set on fire just like by?
Well, that was my first concern.
It was like, not in a church,
weird.
Dave. It was the basement.
It was the basement of a church, right? So
Doesn't
it was
count.
That whole trip, right, was a weird one with that. But he wanted to go off script, right? Where I had my slides, right? So
right.
I wanted him to keep using my slides 2 more times, because as I was going, I didn't do shit. I just sat in the back and I wrote the 8 keys that's on teenage.
He was the one snoring.
I needed him to say what he was saying, because I was writing it.
Yeah.
So it was right. So I had the slide
Dave,
right
Jim,
here.
Could you go back to that thing about the bench?
I wasn't done yet.
How many?
Yes.
3 grips.
It's like he's doing that, and I'm typing, and I'm like, man, just one more time, man. And then it was maybe the 3rd time or whatever. He's like, just fuck it, and just didn't use it. And this one was like, well, this works way better when you don't use slides. You just tell them what to do.
Yep.
It knocks half the time out. But the church one was I'm like, this is going to be an interesting one here. They didn't burn down.
I remember that one. There's like, if I remember correct, there was like desks, like school desks people sat in. And I remember Dave was way in the back. He's causing trouble. Boo!
Yep.
Wendler eats dick. No, like to be the bad kid, throwing spitball. Passing notes. Can I read that out to the whole class? No.
So what is this left you out to dry thing?
Well, I'm gonna
edit.
I was in Kentucky at the time, living in Kentucky, and Dave was in Ohio, and we said, hey, we're gonna do a seminar. We're gonna meet at the guy's house prior, like the night before. and we'll all go out.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about that one.
So,
God, he's dead.
and Eddie Cohn was there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Uncle Eddie.
Yeah. So I get there first because my parents live in Illinois, live around that area. So I stayed at my parents' house, and then I just drove to this guy's house. And I don't know what, Dave is actually driving from Ohio, so it's not like he's driving 20 miles away and like, I'll meet you here at 8:30. It was a bigger chunk of, between 8 and 10 or something, whatever it was. So I get there, and I'm there for an hour by myself. An hour with the biggest blowhard you've ever seen in your life. And if anyone doesn't know a blowhard, they just fucking love to hear themselves talk and tell you how great they are and what an expert they are. He showed me, and he's giant house. I mean, it's a giant house. And it was one thing after another.
Oh my God.
About how great he was. And I'm like I never judged you on how you lifted. Like, I'm all right, just are you a good dude? And I'm like, I don't care about any of it. Not one thing did I care about what you've told me, because it was all about how good he was. And he had his own trophy room. Oh. Yeah, that's how big this house was. So anyway, the doorbell rings. And I'm like, oh, there is a God. I repented everything I've ever said. And it was Eddie Cohn. And I hadn't known Eddie for very long, but I think enough where I'm like, and anyway, this guy's house we're staying at, his young daughter came downstairs or something. She might have been 10 years old. And the host, the owner of the house, is like, hey, say hi to Uncle Eddie. And she's like, hey, Uncle Eddie. And they talked a little bit. And then Eddie and I kind of get like a little
break,
20 seconds alone. I'm like, you know him? I've never met anyone in my life. I'm like, how you Uncle Eddie? He's like, don't fucking ask me. Oh, dude, it was so uncomfortable. I'm like, dude, we can die together.
Yeah,
we can die together. Like a murder-suicide pact.
Here we go. I'll shoot you, and then you shoot. Oh, fuck.
That was a fucking weird one, man.
But it was incredibly uncomfortable because first of all, you're not gonna outlift Eddie Cohn in any way, shape, or form. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, you can.
So no matter what you say, it's not like you're gonna. Eddie cares, or you're going to be on the top of the chopping block, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
And
this guy he walked me into the guest bedroom, whatever that was, and I'm told immediately that the window dressings, which I didn't even know was a thing at the time.
I thought it was just salads.
$8,000. Yeah, like $8,000 window dressings, and the bed is like the best bed money can buy. It's $2,800 or whatever it is. You'll sleep well. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about your window dress. Last week I slept under a boar head. What? But that's how this dude was, man. It's like, he would see Jim's G-Shock. What kind of watch is that?
Yeah.
It's a G-Shock. I use it all the time.
You ever see my watch?
You look at mine. I got an Omega, and I got two others. It's like,
do you know how much I know about watches? I know about this watch right here. I don't even know how to change, if it's know how to change the time on this.
It's like a swatch, right?
Yeah.
This thing spins though. I don't know why.
And we're in this.
That's the G.
We're in his office. I think it was an office or whatever it was. And Jim's in there, Ed's in there, and I'm in there, and this other guy's in here. And it was every goddamn thing. Every question was a leading answer from him.
It's like when people ask you what you would do to stop if you could go back in time, because they only want to tell you what they do. I'm like, just tell me what you want to do.
Yeah,
I know you're not going to listen.
We're trying to find any way out.
Yeah,
is there anywhere to eat? No, I can order something.
No.
And then
I want a loud restaurant.
It was fucked up, man. Then we did the seminar, wherever it was at. Then we got called back because shit wasn't put away. Well, shit wasn't put away or some shit. Like, it was, I don't know what we got called back. I remember we had to go back in and clean everything up. And it was shit that we didn't use. It's like, this is fucked up. That was a weird Uncle Eddie, though, is what I remember from
like that. Really rich people are fucking weird.
This I think was fake rich, though. I think that he was in debt rich.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he was bragging way too much.
Yeah.
Even for, maybe I haven't been around enough rich people that are, this is like fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, rich people I know aren't going to tell you that their window dressings were $8,000.
No.
It's just.
Well, they don't care.
But everything, it was everything. It was like the peas. Like, look, man, these are the best peas.
These are from Guatemala.
Yeah, I get my peas.
It's like, you understand I'm going to shit these out in about an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't even digest
it.
it.
Man. Unfucking believable.
Well, that was like, I had an incident with there was a girl that I was seeing, and her family was loaded, and they were from Greenwich, Connecticut, and I went over to her house over the summer, and I walk in, and there's a fucking medieval suit of armor, like in the foyer, I guess you would call it. And then they were just sharing stories, and it was like, oh, that's his study. Right?
Yeah.
And then it was like,
he's not in school.
well, she was like, his guitar's in there. He hasn't played guitar since 9/11. And I was like, oh, why? I was like, did someone die? He's like, no. She was like, no.
It's just, that was the date.
It was just like,
listen,
it was just like a weird, I was like,
to be honest, it was planned. It just happened to fall on that day. Yeah. His songs were so sorrowful and melancholy that the world couldn't handle it.
I was like,
couldn't handle two tragedies in one day.
I was like, did you have anything to do with it? She was like, no.
Right.
I was like,
okay.
That's so weird that didn't work out.
I took a shit 4 hours ago. We just going to say random shit?
Yeah, it didn't work out. That one definitely didn't work out.
Well, I think that's what they call nouveau riche. Nouveau riche. That's like they come from, old money doesn't really give a shit. New money is always
flashy.
Yeah, it's the Great Gatsby right there.
Yeah.
So
now, I just don't get how you guys went from a seminar, because it's the same seminar regardless, right? Like, it was the same seminar based on location. Like, how would you get these, like, this crazy fake rich person, and then like you're sleeping in a hunting lodge?
Because those people would call. This is before we had a different format, because we ended up realizing that we were generally putting the company's name and reputation at risk depending on who. So if you called us, you were in charge of getting the room, the money. So if what you could do then is we would charge you $1,000, whatever it was, and then you collect. So you say, well, I'm going to charge $300 a head. Whatever money's left over, you can keep. So now that gave you some kind of ownership in it. The problem is they would charge whatever and then have a shit room,
right?
Or they wouldn't sell out. They wouldn't sell their part. So then I'm trying to push as much as I can push, and there's only so many people.
Yeah, we had to have a cutoff. Like X amount of people had to sign up.
Yeah, I need like 5, 10. It wasn't a lot to break even. Breaking even, I was cool if we broke even. But if this person is in this city, in this gym, then they should be able to get at least 3 people from that gym.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times they wouldn't get anybody. Then I had to cut once. Somebody took all the money, and then we didn't hit the minimum, which was normally I would always go, but in this case, it was like 3 or 4 people. Minimum was 15. It wasn't doable.
Do you remember what city this is?
It was in Pennsylvania. I can tell. Well, the guy's passed, so I don't want to talk bad about him. But I mean, he ripped everybody off. So it canceled. He refunded nobody, and then I had to refund everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I got to still refund and be responsible for this, then we got to figure a different setup out.
So I think what ended up happening is we had so many contacts. And so if we're like, listen, hey, so-and-so, what's a good place to put a seminar on, like the Days Inn or whatever? Like, so we would just call and rent out the room. And then we had a travel agent. I remember we had a travel agent. I was so much better. I'd still rather use a travel agent. Like, listen, I want to go from here to here. I want to leave there. I don't want any fucking layovers. Let's go.
Or that, and if things got fucked up, you just made one call.
Yeah.
And now you waited for an hour, for a call back. But
oh, it was nice. And then you get the itinerary. God, I remember what her name was. That doesn't matter. Obviously, no one cares.
Nobody wants a travel agent now.
Yeah, me and Dave only would know. Yeah, she was super nice, man. I remember I had to call her from the road from like, what's the address of this? I was so mad I couldn't find the airport. The fuck is this guy?
Well, some of them cities, man, you couldn't find the airport. It's like trying to find Rickenbacker here in Columbus.
Yeah, that was the other. Yeah. Anyway, I don't even remember. Towards the end, we didn't do a lot of seminars. It's just not worth your time. And what happens is you have to. If I was going out, you would lift on Friday morning, and then I would come into work and do something real quick or whatever, and then my flight would be leaving at whatever time. So that Friday's all done.
Yeah.
Saturday's all done. Sunday was half the seminar. You get back Sunday night, and then
you're just fucking toast.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that Saturday is exhausting because the seminar that day was 8 or 9 hours, and a lot of it was talking and then doing instruction and stuff. We gave a lot more than we probably charged, and that the whole point was not just to teach people, was to get the name out there and show, so that really wasn't a money-making thing. Because at that time, I remember guys charging, other fitness guys charging $2,000 a pop per seminar, and they were getting people. And I was like, we were charged. I think the most we ever charged,
$225.
Yeah. It was like maybe in a 200. That was at the very end, and that's when we're like, listen, we're flying first class.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it, or at least I'm buying the seat next to me. But so yeah, but then it starts. Then I had Mason and stuff, and then Dave's got kids, and it's like, I don't really. What's the point of going? And the other thing with people ask me still to do stuff, and I'm like, listen, I can reach more people with a video than I can. Now that doesn't mean that's not a tremendous amount of worth, but that's a lot of work for a very small payoff. And so
the biggest negative from not doing them that I see is you don't develop the deeper interpersonal relationships. Like that's where the DeFranco came from for the Q&A. That's where Martin came from for the Q&A. That's where Buddy came from. That's where, all these people came from that. Because your bullshit detector, for me, I have a very good bullshit detector, I think. So it's easier to pick up when you're spending a couple days with somebody, you're sharing a couple meals. Then you got somebody like Jim or somebody with you that you're close to. You're like, well, what do you think? And it's usually it was right on par. Normally it was like, I don't know. Let's give it another day. We'll know after he benches. Yeah, right. Some bullshit like that. But that was part of it too, because we were looking for Q&A people and coaches and athletes and those relationships and networking.
Yeah, I wanted soldiers, like, people don't understand, like, at that time we were the only kind of powerlifting, just heavy strength training around. And it was so rare, like, oh my God, it was like going to church and finding the guy who loves black metal. I'm like, do you like black metal? It's like, no. I'm like, fuck, how about you? No. It's like, well, I gotta go to another church. It was hard to find on the internet. It was hardly anything. If anything, it was more obviously bodybuilding related, the major stuff. So it was hard to find people that. And it didn't have to be like Martin was a speed expert, but he had some of the same basic ideas with, the
values. Be very good, the elite. That was part of it. It had to be elite at whatever they do. So to me, that meant they had to earn a living doing what they're doing. So if they're a coach, they better earn their living being the coach.
Right.
And so, but it would allow, because you'd see somebody that it's kind of there, but then we'd fuck with them a little bit more on the benching. We would pull more of the West Side shit out with them. Yeah. Like, oh, that looks slow, or just fucking with, gym shit. And then you'd find out real quick, because the other part of it was with the value aspect is who's going to want to be a part of this because they actually care about wanting to help people. I mean, that's a big thing, right? It's harder now today than ever to be able to decipher that.
Right.
Because there's so many different ways to make revenue.
Before you had to recruit people, now you have to, people are coming to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we had to actively go. Now when you have people coming in and you don't know what their motivations are, like, are you just trying to, get your name and sell stuff? Or are you actually trying to help?
Which
doesn't mean you can't want to have, ulterior motives, but that was always the weird thing towards maybe the last 3 years or something. We started sponsoring people, then it started getting weird about some stuff, and then with the sponsorships, like, you had so much fucking drama, in this little pocket of people, and you're like, right. Can we just
not sponsor people? It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, how about you not put your dong in everything? We just, holy cow. It's just one thing after another.
And and with them wanting to sell things, that's if they would let us know, then we're cool. Like Croc was selling everything, VHS tapes and whatever, books. I mean, he had everything. He, whatever we want to call it for today. it's fluid. So, Janae. But there was always something, but Croc was always very transparent. Like, hey guys, I'm working on this. And then we could say, okay, do this, do this, do this. Maybe don't do this, do this. And then we'd want to help them do better. And some other ones, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, where did this come from? Because it's, in no way does it hurt us, you know, to have them do better. Actually, it helps us.
Right. No, absolutely.
Now, I'll be honest. I mean, there was a time where I would think and say to myself that it did. You know, there was a time where I thought it would hurt us. But you learn, you know, over a period of time, and then you learn that you're wrong. Like, no, man, I thought his book was going to hurt us when it was taken off. He knows it. I know. We've talked about it. But then you learn after a while, and actually, no, this helps a fucking lot. You know, so
a rising tide.
Yeah. So it's like, what is my problem here that this is doing well? Because it's my problem, right? And then so you see that, but when it's not there, it's like what. That's what he's talking about with the sponsorship thing too, is there's this weird shit going on that was like under the surface that wasn't even necessary to be under the surface.
No.
Right.
That's what made it so weird. Like, why is this such, and it would be funny because some of these sponsors or just with other drama type stuff would be like, hey man, can I talk to you for a minute? Right. So then they pull us aside and then
you got AIDS or something?
They're telling us the story where like, dude, it's the sixth time I've heard this in the last month.
It's actually the sixth variation too.
Like this is not a big deal, you know. But it's
very conjugate of you.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, Jim, what do we got working on your end? NOV meet? You bringing that up again, or?
We'd like to do that again. I mean, with all the COVID stuff, it's going to be hard. It's not just like the restrictions; it's whether or not people have access to gyms to train. We did like a fun. Everything based on a coefficient. I think we did the trap bar deadlift.
What, last year?
That was just kind of. It was 2019.
Yeah,
and we ended up having it was like trap bar. I think the standing press, and maybe the squat, something like that. And we had gave out cash. Like we had 5,000 for the winner, 3,000 for the second, and it was all based on coefficient. We had a girl win because of the coefficient. She got second when she placed, and so it was just there was no body weight. Like because we used coefficient, I didn't want any body weight. We're not weighing people in. Strong is strong, and the kid who won was, I mean, ungodly strong. Like deadlifted, trap bar. He didn't hit 900, but it was close. I mean, it's unbelievably strong. But we had a whole bunch of vendors there. It was just kind of like a fun meet. They also had a, what do you call that? The Highland Games stuff. We had competitions for that, and we had a bunch of people set up. We had tons of food. And it was really easy because I didn't do anything. I just put my name on there. If I just wanted to be about lifting, like the judging was
easy
like.
for him. Yeah. You got his table?
Yeah. I didn't even but I would just.
You got there, someone was like, Uncle Jim.
But what ended up happening was like it didn't like if you kind of moved your hips in the deadlift, like in the weight room, was this a good lift? You know, it's just like when you see someone bench, you know, it's not like crazy rules. So we use common sense stuff, and but yeah, we'd like to bring that back. It's everything's so fucked up now. Like it's just tough, and I think it's harder. Obviously, it's harder for people to travel with the, you know. I saw rent is up 19% on average. Like it's, you know, so I'd like to get it done. It was a good time. And the best thing was the meet was about lifting weights. It wasn't about the politics of the organization or what you were wearing. Like I think we like, listen, you want to wear, it was supposed like belt and knee wraps you could wear and wrist wraps. I'm like, everyone can agree that those things are standard issue.
Yeah, right.
A standard issue in the weight room. And you know, you can do however you want. And, but yeah, I don't know about that because I put that on with Phil Stevens, and Phil's kind of the main guy between that. But it was held at his gym. It was in Kansas. It was kind of a nice kind of midpoint. And, I'll never forget, we stayed at a very nice hotel. It was my wife and James and stuff. And we went, this was like at the you could start to see this is Kansas. Sounds like everyone's just like normal. No, you go to any big city, everyone's fucking crazy. And I look on the menu, I never seen avocado toast. And I made a comment to the girl, I'm like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Like, who orders avocado toast? Oh, boy. You'd be surprised. Most people come here just for the avocado toast. I'm like, no one comes here for the avocado toast, honey.
To the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel. And it was a very nice, but I was thinking, like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, honey. Like, it was so, I just like the.
Did you get it?
No, fucking. I just want sour.
Everybody goes there.
$32 for that.
Yeah, that's right. Like weird sausage stew. Like, God. But it was an awesome time, and I had Phil Stevens, who you know.
No, I know Phil.
Phil's a good guy,
good dude, man.
Really good person, and we do all our stuff with Phil. And he's one of the few people that stays. He never stays at our house when he comes here, but we offer him, and that's pretty good because we never offer anyone. But Phil's like, he's the kind of guy, like I've known him for a long time. Like we'd never wear out our welcome. He's like, listen, I'm going to go. You guys are good. Like, I'm not going to stand here all night. Or,
Punched our ticket.
Yeah. So it's like my parents, they only stay for 2 days or 3 days at the most. Like, we're good. We're good. Like, they're never going to stay,
Can't miss you till you're gone.
That's right. So, but we don't, as far as like products, we're always putting out new products or trying to. Boy, what a pain in the ass, Dave. Oh my God, Dave. I don't know how you're doing it because it's.
No, I know. What you should push is the, actually I should ask first, with your forum, are you even pulling new people?
Oh, we're doing a ton of it on the forum. Our forum has blown up. And I think part of it was obviously with COVID going down, people wanted to have like a community to be part of, and we don't do a ton of advertising because we have so many members, and it is when I first had the idea, it's just like when you had the Q&A idea, you never thought it would morph into something that's as big as it was, and this is the most positive place on the internet without being hokey, meaning like everyone has to register by their first name. I've already thrown people out that gave me any fucking attitude or put any, like I said, you talk about anything I don't want, like you're fucking gone. I'll just refund. Like, I don't care. It's, I think $5 a month or something that keeps the riffraff away. And we have a ton of different people from all different walks of life who will help you out and, offer suggestions and stuff. And what's funny is it's like, we have so many members and it's like 99% are lurking. They're too afraid, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable answering. So, but that is awesome. And it's such a good group of guys. We have guys have been there for 10 years.
Well, it's the easiest way to support you, because a lot of times people want to know, how do you support this person? How do you support this person? Well, this doesn't matter where they live.
Yes,
it's the same thing. You got to have an archive.
Yeah,
it's got to be a decade old.
Yeah, it's we have so much stuff on there, and I'm telling you, like you're right. That's why you're the business guy, and I'm just the lud. But obviously, we still do a ton of stuff with the books and the apparel. But the big thing is probably the forum and just the books. I mean, that's how that's why Juliet and I are able to do the stuff at London, because both of us do not get paid. We did this as like. I'm not saying that as I'm very proud that we do that, but like there is a reason why if people are given the opportunity to make some money and do some stuff, the amount of stuff you can give back is exponential. And that's my thing for getting rid of income tax. Just let people keep the money they earn. I know it's a crazy statement. But anyway, it's that's I don't have any books. Like I'd like to do one on the weight vest stuff, but I've only, been using the weight vest probably for 5 or 6 years. That's not enough time to know anything. So maybe in the next, maybe after 8 years or something, I can write something. It's very simple to do, but, it's funny because Dave, when you reached the point of horrible shit in your body, you went in another direction and I went, but they're same goddamn things. Just, you got to be stupid. And my life has changed, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and stuff. It's just funny because I was thinking like, your insane squat and like when you and Vinny were benching, you always put the 25s on and it was just fucking hilarious to me. I'm like, you still got it, man. You still got it, motherfucker.
You still got to find your thing, man.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't care if it's a the red pad and the 3-board.
You still figure it out, man.
Still got the bench shirt. Do you still have that thing, the half bench shirt?
You fucking brings it
right there, hanging on the belt
literally
slot.
every single week. Literally, I'm not kidding.
It don't help.
We used to give Dave so much shit. He's like, it doesn't help. I'm like, we'll take it off. No, I'm not going to take it off. What are you, stupid?
I just had that conversation with Todd last week.
Take it off.
Because he made one. And I'm like, look, it ain't going to help.
Now the running joke is that it makes it harder.
Yeah. It adds about 300 pounds in the bottom.
That's right. You try pulling that bar down.
Oh, shit. So we've been going for about 2 hours and 10 minutes. You want to bring it in for a landing, or what do you want to do?
Do they have any questions?
We haven't had a ton come up. We've had a few super chats that came in that just appreciating the work that you guys have done over the last few years. A lot of thank yous, a lot of just, again, appreciative comments and
well, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, people.
Yeah, this is 100 episodes. That's fucking crazy. 100 friggin' episodes. Jim, where can people find you?
Remember, the discount code is
elite15.
That's at www.jimwendler.com. That's where you'll find me. You find me occasionally on Instagram, very rarely on Facebook. My wife does all that posting, what we do. God, what a shitstorm. I've been on Twitter one time, I think, in 15 years.
We got axed at the same time.
Yeah, Dave and I both we got blown off there. And
fuck them.
Yep.
We didn't do anything wrong, so it's not like we have this huge Twitter following.
We got canceled before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never been on I don't even know how to. I don't know. It just doesn't interest me. I can do Instagram fairly well, but the thing is you know what I do every day? I do squats and push-ups and chin-ups, and I ride the bike and I take a walk. Like, there's only so many things I can write about. One time I did lunges and I wrote about that. I shit you not.
Gotta write this.
I saw that picture.
Yeah.
I saw the picture.
I was like, all right. And I had to set up the camera. I feel like such a stooge.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to train. That's all I want to do is train. I listen to some comedy albums. I don't even listen to music sometimes anymore. I'm just like, I just want to laugh. That's the best part. By the way, we know a police officer fairly well, and he's finally admitted to my wife. He's like, I've gotten a lot of calls about your husband when he's walking with the weight vest. They're like, there's a guy who's going nuts.
God, no.
And I'm like, I'm. And I was like, all right, that's. There's nothing more scary than a guy walking down by an empty cornfield with a weight vest on.
And tattoos.
Yeah.
Just stop carrying those big swords.
Yeah. Well, it was probably the gun and me shooting cars, but it was. I don't know.
What makes that even funnier is how small of a town this is.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I know.
Like that should be the norm for work from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, people should just normally be walking around in a bulletproof vest.
Yes.
Open carry, and that would be more normal to me.
You just put stirrups on, fucking just clink down the road.
I don't know where I was going with that. It doesn't matter. I love living here though, man. I appreciate Dave you doing all this shit, man. I can't believe where I am. I met all the great things in my life happened because of training or football. So super, super lucky. Even all that CTE and memory loss, fucking worth it. Mm-hmm. God,
if I don't remember it, it's not worth it.
That's right. You can ask my wife how many Christmas presents I bought her and birthday presents. giant goose egg. I'll never forget when I told her, I'm like, listen, man, I'm really sorry. I'm like, she's like, I didn't marry you for a fucking birthday present. I was like, all right.
Man, you just cruised your way out of
I know. I'm like,
for every present ever.
I'm done.
You're done.
Well, the other thing is, Dave, whenever you need something, you don't tell Tracy in a couple texts like, boy, I was really looking at that sweater at Macy's. What do? You go buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so she's like, what am I going to do? Like, buy you a guitar? I don't even know what the fuck you want.
Now's the Sea-Doo collection.
Yeah,
that's where you get.
That's right. At, his and hers.
Yeah. Bedazzle them.
Yes. But she wants something, she goes buys it. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't. You get so plus you want to give good gifts, meaning you don't want to buy anything shitty. You don't want to buy 10 of something that's going to crap out. You just want to do some research and buy it. I don't know any of that stuff, so I don't know. Plus, you just if I every year I buy 15 of the same black T-shirt. I wear the same black T-shirt every day, every single day. Not the same one, the same brand. I just have.
The brand is 531. So
no, it's actually
JimWendler.com.
Yes, but you can't see it on the shirt. But you
Perfect
can imagine.
Advertising.
Yeah. That's so bad. But James asked me, he's like, why don't you ever wear any of our gear? I'm like, I don't like it. Wearing anything with that label on it. Because I had a Sam Hain shirt on yesterday. He was like, oh my God, Dad, you got something on your shirt? I'm like, it's only for sleep time.
This is my nap shirt.
You know that. I was proud of him. He's like, Sam Hain, they're like the Misfits, right? Because Glenn Danzig started the Misfits, then went to Sam Hain and went to dancing. I was like, holy shit, yeah, you got it right, kid. You got it right. All right.
One less beating today.
That's right. I remember first showing him the Misfits. Because Misfits songs are always like 90 seconds long. He couldn't believe how short they were. He was like, this is awesome. And then like my wife's like, you got to watch what you say around him. Because he just, I don't know. I'm not a very good dad. I'm just like, it's like, let's watch, we'll watch like something on the mob. I love watching mafia stuff recently. It's like, so-and-so was murdered. And they show like the crime scene. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like,
it's in black and white.
It's in black and white. You can't even see the blood.
It looks like mud.
He deserved it. He needs to know.
It's history.
That's right.
That's what you get for opening up your fucking mouth.
Oh, yeah. That's always my downfall. And I showed him like Predator a couple years ago, and she's like, you seen Predator, right? It's rated R.
It's about bicep veins, right?
Right.
Is that what other?
You son of a bitch.
Do they even have ratings anymore?
Yeah. When was the last time you've been to a movie? Since
we went once since this bullshit.
Yeah. It's fucking.
And it was weird, man, because we went to Easton, because normally they got that. Yeah. You can. I don't want to say it's a restaurant, right? But
I know what you're talking
the real
about.
food.
Yeah.
So we go there, and it's weird. Like, obviously, the world's changed. Just like, where's a human? Mm-hmm. There's like no human. Mm-hmm. Like, where do I buy the fucking ticket? I used to go here. Yeah. Now I got to go here, and I got to use a kiosk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
I don't want to use a kiosk.
But the cool thing is you can buy booze at the kiosk too.
I didn't know that. So it's like the whole thing has become this kiosk thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, because I think about weird shit all the time. I can't stop doing it. I'm like, how is this better? Because now everybody's touching the same button. Yep. So if we have this virus, now I'm infected because of every fucking 100 people that just, at least when I gave the dude the ticket, you know what I'm saying? He's only touching the ticket. I'm not touching the dude, right?
Well, speak for yourself, Dave.
Well,
I usually give him a little jerk.
I'm in the wrong theater.
That's the intermission, That brings back.
It's like milking a cow.
That brings back school-age kid things.
Oh my God!
But that was just weird. It was after that. Plus, it cost 3 times as much. Oh, and so I just spent $100 fucking for 3 people.
Yeah, you could have rented on Apple TV and
terrible. Like, fuck it. So forever. But Blaine, there's something he wants to see April 8th because he's got to get his driving. I think it's next week.
Permit or whatever.
Well, he's taking his driving exam. He's failed it twice. So this is the 3rd time will be a charm. And every time he fails, it's for something stupid.
Oh, yeah. Like something you don't even do personally.
Well, yeah. I mean, like the last one was like the test was over. Then he turned the wrong.
Okay.
He's been, I don't mind this because Blaine's not, I mean, while being on the spectrum, this is going to sound weird. He's not had a lot of adversity in his life.
Yeah, so
hard things. Like, this is probably a hard thing for him. Failing your driver's test is probably a hard thing for him. So the fact that he's had to do it twice it's a good thing.
Yes.
Right? Because he's maturing, he's going through all that. A lot of the other hard things that he would have had were negated because we pulled him out of school, put him in different school, stuff like that. But anyhow, on April 8th, there's this stupid movie that he wants to see. He wants to drive to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm your backup plan. And he's like, but if you're my backup plan, you can't go in the theater with me. So I'm like, I'm going to have, so I hope it plays down here in London. So I just drop his ass off, right? Because that will suck. I'd have to sit there and watch like Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever. So it's coming. So April 8th, whatever that is. I don't know what's launching.
I don't know. I haven't kept up. Have you ever seen the show Supernatural? come on, that's definitely. I saw it on.
I think I've seen 1 or 2 episodes.
Okay, it's the reason why I thought of you is because there's 15 seasons.
Oh my God!
So like, well, it's got to be all right.
I was just Joe Amato just broke his fucking heel or whatever, his ankle. And last night, I'm like, Joe, you just need to don't get caught up in the news.
Yeah.
We know what happens, because if you're homesick or in a cast or a hip replacement, I can name a million things you can be home for.
With his food bell.
And you get stuck on some hearing bullshit, like Trump being impeached or whatever, you're fucked. Yeah. You get pulled down the rabbit hole and you never come out. So I'm telling Joe, don't watch the news. Any hearings, any C-SPAN, turn the shit off. Don't do it. And like, well, what am I supposed to watch? I'm like, Weeds. Right, go on Netflix and watch Weeds. There's like
Californication.
Or Grey's Anatomy's got like 21 fucking seasons. I mean, you got to find something. So this has got.
I saw.
Yeah, you look at the seasons first.
Yeah, and I saw it the other day, and I was like, oh my God, 15 seasons.
Exactly. I mean,
like,
at that point,
a completely different person.
Oh yeah.
Like, and every step of the way, right? You're like some old guys. Like, listen, just do It's like Danny
great.
Glover. I'm too cool for this shit.
You watch like episode 1 and they have flip phones.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They had Nextels.
I had Dave got me a phone, and it was like at the time that was a brand new phone, and Dave was all mad. I should have gotten that phone. And that guy had that phone. and I remembered, I'm like, oh, Dave was I was laughing. I'm like, I don't like. And the worst part is I didn't care. I still don't care about that stuff. It really meant a lot to Dave, and I was like, "Dude, you can." I didn't really, but it made me happy that he was so mad. I was like, "I'll make sure to tell him I don't use any function on here."
I wanted that bag phone.
Yeah, he's like sending text messages in front of me. My phone don't even text.
Well, that was but that first phone I didn't have text, and I remember Ferrugia saying, you got to start doing text and stuff, and I was like, "Dude, what do I got to say that's so important now?" Now I'm even worse, because I noticed when you sent this last text, you sent another text.
Yeah, I was just checking up on you.
And I don't respond. In fact, it's so bad that Mason, my son, now sometimes contacts my wife.
Well, I have a small circle of people that are introverts, like you. All I do is I send a text like, "Hey man, everything going okay?" And if I get an answer, I know it's not.
It's like, oh shit,
right? Because I know these people.
He's taking a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and because they're really general, it's just like a check out what's going on, man. And so it's you jails that way. There's a few of them. It's just like, what? I assume everything's okay. Boom. Yep. No reply. It's all good. Something comes back immediately. Yeah. I'm like, oh man. Okay,
why did I ask?
Yeah, what's up? Well, I mean, these are people that if they did, I would help them out. But
it's like Rhodes, like he comes every couple months or weeks, whatever it is.
Weeks, months, years.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Time?
I don't even know he's coming until that day. And Juliet's like, "Hey, just by the way, Matt's coming." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, we made plans. Like, you have band practice on March 3rd. I'm like, "All right." Don't even know. And it's funny because they stopped even sending me anything.
Like, brilliant.
Yeah. Like, I just found out I have band practice sometime in March, because Joey's like, "Hey, I've got a new snare drum. Look at this. I'll bring it, in March." And I was like, "What are you coming here for the Arnold, or what's going on?"
Somebody asked on my Instagram thing about your when you were going to release a new album.
Oh God, I wish we already recorded an EP. We just never released it. It's I don't know. We'd like to do something like that. Honestly, it's when you're older, I just love making the noise and writing the songs and doing it. I don't care if anyone knows it. I have my own little recording thing. It's a 12-track, and I've probably got, I don't know, 85 songs that I did all the drums, bass, and I just wrote it all. And it's like, I burn them onto a CD and put them in my car. And I was like, yeah, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if anyone knows. Like, I'm just so happy.
For those people that follow him, it's kind of a loaded question, so you lie if you have to. Do you still write every day?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Write and read. I'm reading. Oh, I love.
Expand on that a little bit, because I think that's important for the people listening to the podcast. I think it's a very important habit.
I always try to do 3 things a day in some capacity. Is write, and that doesn't mean like I'm writing a book or anything. It means you're doing something where you're putting thoughts on paper, and it could be training. It could be anything you want. It just could be it doesn't matter. Just like reading. The only rule I have, it has to be a book. It can't be online. Like, I can't go read the forum. That doesn't count as It has to be a book, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's like I'm reading a book on war right now, and it's fascinating. I love it, but it doesn't have to be about training. It doesn't have to be about business or self-improvement, because first of all, like we were talking earlier, when you write, like your ideas come to life, and you not only come to life, you start to form shit. And the first 531 book, I wrote everything, and then I wrote the intro, and then I wrote the principles, which everything were based on. You'd think it was the other way around, but it wasn't until I wrote everything down. I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is it. I'm like, oh my God. Now everything opened up to me. And I was like, oh, so if it's just like having business principles. It would be something like, well, if let's say you want to do this thing, well, how does it fit within here? It doesn't, well, I can't, do it. Or how can I adjust it to fit? So with the reading, I think just the best thing, like for example, between reading and watching a movie, right? When you're a kid, when you read, you have to form the pictures in your head. The play has to evolve in your head. Even though you're being told, you have to see it in your head. And I think that's super important for people. And once again, if you like reading Harry Potter or you like reading autobiography, whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as you're reading. I think that does something to your brain that can't really be duplicated. Plus, like we talked about, I don't know if I said this out, when we do our walks, it clears your head. Reading, there's the old joke is you never kill yourself when you're reading or walking outside. Those are things that are good for your mental health. And plus, guess what? You might by accident learn something. Even if it's something like I love reading some crime novels, like fiction and stuff, but you learn new words or a cool phrase. Like I highlight cool phrases. I'm like, dude, I'm totally using that for a lyric.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah, I love it. So I always have a highlighter in whatever book I'm reading, no matter what. I'm just so you can flip through and see. And then the training thing is that goes along with the whole, your whole body system. So mind, body, soul kind of thing. And the training, because I've been doing this crazy shit, I do it every day. I already trained this morning. I got up early, and my wife was like, "Oh my God, she's like, you're almost like a real person. You got up kind of early."
Yeah, well, it is. I mean,
and my son was busting my balls.
I'm like, is 11 too early? I'm like, well, I always ask myself, what's good for me?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I'm doing nothing before 10:30.
Yeah. So I always wake up but I'm not really doing anything specific, but I'm always up fairly early. There's nothing, because I think I make better coffee than my wife.
So you need to get up first to be able to make it.
Or I pre-measure everything out and I put all the water bottles. I'm like, I did that for you. But so those three things. So now, like even if I was strength training, for example, and I couldn't train like that every day, it would be like a yoga session, something that you have to kind of release your mind a little. I'm not saying like yoga is this spiritual thing for me, but you have to work. And that's where even walking, even though technically it's not a workout, it's something physical that you're doing. So, and one of the weird things I was reading about and I'm not sure, I know we got to get going here. I saw a video about this guy who did like a special forces diving course, the CDQC or something. I can't remember. And he said, PT wise, it was the hardest thing he's ever done. This guy was a ranger. This guy was like special forces all the way around. And he's like, we did about 6 hours of PT a day. Think about that for a second. That's insane. And I was like, I think I could work out for an hour. If this dude's doing, does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
That's when you think about raising your expectations. Like, I can do burpees for an hour. Like if he's doing 6 hours and, that's so, I don't know. So when I train, I try to do something for at least an hour, like a hard hour where I'm a little miserable and it's fun. Oh, it's fun. Especially it's like I have a garage gym I'd rather train in the cold. It's fucking cold than in the heat. Cause the heat, I get so dizzy.
Yeah, no, heat's terrible.
I have to, it's just miserable, but I like the challenge. Like it's fun. And, it's funny. Do you guys have AC in here? No.
Just heat.
After I left Arizona, I didn't train in any climate controlled place until, I guess, would West Side have heat?
Yeah, but we never used it.
So it might have been the one on 40 where we had heat, but it was propane, but we didn't want to run it because it was such a fucking big place.
Yeah, that was the only place, yeah.
The gym I trained at in Tucson had no heat, no air conditioning. It was a giant World's Gym, had no, so like I never had, until when I was at Arizona, we had air conditioning in the football weight room. But I think it does something to you.
I think to echo what you're saying about those three things, I always wrote kind of just because of the Q&A for so long. But then after the Q&A went away, we were having a conversation. This is going way back, probably 10 years, dating us again.
Yeah.
But you said something about writing every day, and it clicked with me because I started thinking, you know what, I don't do Q&As anymore. Yep. I'm only writing an article like if I have to. And so I started that back up again a decade ago, and I got probably thousands of notes, just on my phone, just popping it out there. Most of them probably start with, I really don't want to write anything today.
Yeah,
I don't want to write it because I'd rather just do it, but I'm writing.
And all
and
of
I
a
just
sudden
keep
you're
going.
like, Slayer's last 3 albums, I don't know.
Yes, and normally out of a couple of weeks, something pops, something's good. I got enough microblog content if I wanted to put it on Instagram to last 4 years.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just images. If I had image, I could do, but it helps clear the head, right? And then the reading for me is it helps me practice my focusing. Yes. Because I'm a person that if I read a paragraph, there's a very good chance I won't know what the fuck I just read. Then I have to go back. When you're reading to get out of it, whatever you need, you have to be reading. You can't be doing anything else. Yes. So what that does each day is a reminder to me to focus. Because sometimes I can just read a whole chapter, go right through it. Sometimes I'm spending a half hour reading the same goddamn paragraph, right? But by the time that half hour is over with, I'm going to know what the fuck the paragraph was, because at that point I'm going to be mad.
Yes.
Because to me, it's like a mental check in the morning. If I can't focus on one fucking paragraph, how am I going to focus on something big if it happens later today? Or something I have to think about? I have to get this in check. The exercise, I haven't got there yet with that daily bullshit, but I don't like to walk.
Oh, Dave, I'm telling you, because you got to get...
I do. I get my steps in, man, but they don't count.
Did you hear that?
I heard that. And it's recorded.
Well, I'm telling you, they don't count. So I don't.
I work from home and my wife works at home, so that's when we've been together for 12 years now. I've never had a fight with her in my entire life. We never even had even a remote kind of a disagreement, because life is too short to be angry, and I got enough. The world is so stupid sometimes. Oh, yeah. I want my house to be my safe place.
Yeah, I need that bubble.
However, we both need time away, and that's our time away. It's let's just, you go be you, and that's why when I train, people ask, why don't you post on Instagram? Because that's my time. I don't want to have to set up a camera or ask this, or I have to move this rack because I'm doing a chin up, and that's me. I love training still. This has revamped my love of just pounding the shit out of my body and my mind. So,
but that's still only if that's your time away. Well, I guess you got other time away too, because when she's in the weight room, you're not in the weight room with her, right?
No,
with the kids.
But I'm with Ding Dong Head, my son.
But you're not with her.
No, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm saying you need more than a half hour a day.
Yes.
To be apart, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, because that still isn't much, especially when you're living together, you're working together, it's all together, right? So,
especially if she's fielding your calls,
there's got to be more to it than that. You know what I'm saying? You're half hour away walking, or while you're training those athletes, there's more that you're doing that's creating this.
Yes.
So what's that like? Because Vincent's the only other person I've ever heard say, I've never had this big knockdown, drag out argument.
I think. There's a couple things. One, we both came into the relationship at the best possible point in both of our lives that would said, listen, we've done all this other stuff. Do you want to just get together and just have a great life? Or do you want to validate our love for each other by arguing? I had girls do that. If we're not arguing, that means I don't love you. I'm like, no.
It means I care.
Yeah. That's, and it was because the best way to say it too is like there's times in your life where you weren't ready to do whatever like start a business. There's probably a time where like you were just not ready, even though you may have had the idea, but something comes in your head and you're like, just like when I made my training, like, listen, I'm dedicated. When I met her, I was like, this is it. I'm putting all in. There's no point for us to argue. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm not going to give her a chance to get mad at me. I'm going to. And what ends up happening is like it's a safe. We talk about safe spaces all the time. That's my safe space, my home, and I don't want to create it so I don't want to come home. Mm-hmm. I want my home to be like I said this. I'm very thankful, grateful every day for that house. I am beyond grateful. It's not the biggest house. I mean, it's nice. But I'm not living. It's a normal suburban house. Yes. But I've never driven up, all the times I'm like, oh my God, that's and in those 4 walls, that's a safe place where my kids love me, my wife loves me, we can have a great time, we can laugh. But I think it more had to do than, one, my wife is incredibly patient. I asked her one time, why don't you ever ask me to do something? She's like, well, first of all, you're not going to do it. You're going to double down on not doing it. And then you're just going to get mad. So so she'll never nag me. She's like, hey, do you think you can take out the garbage? And I'll do it. I try not to be like that, but she's like, I don't want to be a nag. I can't stand, bossy, naggy.
No, but you're also managing your business together.
Yes. Well, that we have very clear, concise things that we do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I just like, as an example, when we first started out at EFS, we had every rule, right? And it's like, dude, some things get, like maybe we did bad here, but it's like, well, what do you want me to do? We're doing all this shit over here. Or why didn't this do it? Like, well, I was in fucking Virginia. Like, but now we're mature enough and we know the business enough that she does X, Y, and Z. I do A, B, and C. And obviously there's some thing, but it's, I really think but I also don't hold a grudge, or she doesn't hold personal stuff. Like, you fuck up. And like, I remember it was something really dumb, and you guys will understand this, is when you keep things bottled up, or, you'll spill some milk, and I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And she's like, you're fine. Like, so what? You broke a plate or whatever. It's like, I'm like, who cares? And you're like, then you start to realize, like, none of this stuff really matters. Most of the times, though, when those little things come, it's a result of everything else being built up, and it's just the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of it has to do with her being very patient and being very understanding. But, it's like, why are you mad I never got you a gift? She's like, well, I didn't marry you so I can get a gift it's like, would you rather be happy or bring up the same stupid stuff that, maybe I don't do enough? Or do you want to just have an awesome marriage and just let some of the stuff slide? And so.
Well, like you said, like, some people enjoy being mad.
Oh, it gives validation. And it usually, especially big, like in high school, like drama, and it's like, it makes you feel important, or what, you're going through important, and you realize you're not that important. No. Like when I went through a horrible case of like midlife nihilism, when you realize nothing matters. It's a horrible feeling. When you realize how many people have been on this earth and you don't matter. And then, like, you start to realize, well, I do matter, because if I go to the Taco Bell line or something and I'm nice to someone, I can't tell you how many, like, someone will stop, like, listen, man, I really appreciate you being nice to me. And I'm like, really? She's like, no one's nice anymore. You just made someone's day. Or if you don't think working at McDonald's matters, then have someone fuck up your order. Like, you're driving out, you're so happy to get that Big Mac, and then they give you a fillet of fish. Like, how mad are you? So that person's job matters. And so how you treat people matter. And I try to treat people, it doesn't mean I have great days all the time. It doesn't mean sometimes I'm a dick, but if someone's, I want to do good, and I realize that I do matter, and it may not be Elon Musk, but, I have 2 kids who I matter to a lot, and I have parents that matter to me a whole ton, even, so, but man, that nihilism thing will kill you. My wife actually said something to me. She's like, you got to change, because it's just, it wasn't like I was down and depressed, but I'm like, who cares? But
it's true though.
Yeah, I know. It's
a fucked up thing, man.
That's the hard thing. And then, you start realizing like, yeah, it does matter. But you could look at nihilism two ways. Is you can look at it like I was for a while. It's like, or nothing matters. Let's just have a great time while we're out here. Let's do some good. Let's try not to ruin people's lives. Let's try to be positive. Let's try not to, be an asshole and whatever. So I took, I had two different things. And plus what's awesome when you realize you don't matter, a lot of things don't matter then in a good way.
Right.
I think some of that though too is controlling the inputs and the outputs.
Oh, it's huge.
Right. Man, because if all you do,
can't control.
Right. If all we do is sit and watch the news,
yep.
How are you going to have any optimism?
Yeah. Yep. And that's planned, by the way. That's 100% planned. But you're right. Like Juliet and I always say, like, listen, when things get tough, we always keep the house clean. We make sure the bank account's balanced. Like, what can we do? We make sure we're eating fairly well. We make sure we're getting up early and doing training. And so do I have control over this? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. I do. I'm going to fucking control it, because the other stuff, man, is just going to be chaos. And the more that you understand that, then pretty soon the chaos doesn't even matter.
Right.
And it's just like when negative comments on the thing. I'm like, dude, I woke up, I did 400 fucking push-ups and 200 burpees. Mm-hmm. My son and I had an awesome time this morning playing. I get to train the ding dongs. That's what I call them, because that's Todd. Yeah. That's Todd, right? I got that from Todd. I call them too. Like, and one guy's like, Coach, why you call us ding dongs? I'm like, because I can't call you fuckers.
You can do anything once.
And so, I mean, like, it's, I'm just very appreciative. I mean, I was thought about the other day about, just being part of this. And it's like, God, look where it got me. It's stupid. It's really dumb. And at a good rate. Like, I can't believe. Like, I got a wife from New Jersey. Like, that's the last place. And she's
Jersey Shore, man.
Yeah, she's nothing like the Jersey Shore girl.
There was fist pumping.
Yeah. But if you gave me a list of states, that would probably be on at least the bottom 10.
Smoke weed from an apple. That's all right. I know about Jersey Shore.
What a dump, man. The funny thing is, apparently most of the people that are at the Jersey Shore aren't from Jersey.
No, not even close.
They're usually from Long Island, which is a... Mm-hmm. Sorry, people from Long Island. Dump. God, it's weird. I remember going out East Coast was always, what a bunch of... They always like, we just tell it like it is. I'm like, no, you're kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between being telling it like it is.
Murph took a while to figure out exactly what's going on here.
And it's always very fun. So when it's, you live so long here and then I go out to Chicago or something, it's like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. We went to, my wife got we were on Navy Pier, which is right off Lake Michigan there. And my wife bought a coffee. I don't know, let's say it's $4.20 or whatever. She gave them a $5 bill. They wouldn't give her the change. And they gave her fucking attitude and, said stuff to her like, who the fuck do you think you are? You think you're not good enough to give me fucking, she's like, it's like, I gave you $10 or whatever. She's like, ugh. So Juliet's like, you're going to give me my goddamn change. I'll stay here all fucking day. And they finally gave it to her. But I was like, you imagine pulling this shit off here? Holy shit. Oh, and so my buddy lives just outside of Chicago, Mike. And I was like, hey, Mike, what the fuck? Like, is this the thing now? She's like, oh yeah, that's the thing now.
What's the?
So if they just keep the person behind the desk now, or keeps all your change and just puts it in their pocket.
That thing?
That's called stealing.
That's called stealing.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. And he's like, but it's like when you maybe grow up in Sarajevo and just seemed like so many fucking bombed out buildings. You're like,
what's crazy though?
Big deal?
Think about the number of people that wouldn't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm. That's what drives me nuts. I'm like, fucking stand up. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I bet it's a bigger percent than we think that would just. I can't believe she didn't give me my change back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Like, huh? You can't believe I can't believe you didn't ask for your change, man.
This didn't happen all the time, but it happened a couple times. And I couldn't.
Fucked.
I was like, holy shit. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, being a New England guy myself, like I've never even heard of that shit. Yep. That's crazy.
Well, this was in Chicago, so I don't know if it's just a Chicago thing, but We went to New York City, Dave. I've been there twice, once with Dave. They both times. The second time around, I was like, it'd be different. And like, just like, smells like a fucking toilet.
All I remember about that is,
dude, it smelled like hot piss.
It was bad.
Everywhere.
It was bad. I mean, we were so confused.
Because there is hot piss everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. I know why it smells like hot piss.
I mean, Ferrugia is like walking us around, showing us stuff. Like, look at this. And we're like, no, this sucks.
Can't get
the only thing I remember about that is he was walking, he had a white t-shirt on, and I took a picture because his traps were just blasting in his shirt. And all I'm thinking is, holy fuck, that's an article. You know, that's going to work fucking awesome. Because I don't know what it was, the buildings or I got to find that picture.
No one took his change.
Oh my God. There was like fucking a brick on each side. I'm like, look at that. I'm like, Jason, like, and he's like, whatever, dude, look over here. This shop's got some cool baseball hats.
Flexing it.
You know, like we got to go to the hat shop. And I'm like, dude, the traps right there are insane.
The best, I am going to guess that white t-shirt was probably from Walmart.
It was a Fruit of the Loom. It was a piece of shit. Yeah.
Came in a fucking bag of 6.
That's what I did in college. You talk about, like, I have all the same t-shirts when I was in college. I would buy one pair of army pants and I would cut them. And then I'd have a belt, and then I would buy a 12-pack of the white t-shirts. That's all I wore because it was so hot there. And I have sandals. That's all I wore every day. And you just got you shake it out and put it in. Oh, some good days, man. Right. That was the best decision I ever made, was going to Arizona. I mean, it was when I left Chicago to go visit with my dad. It was uncommonly cold.
I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Because you were in, God damn it, the Air Force Academy?
Yep.
Is that right?
And I came home, I left there.
What was the pivot point?
Why did I leave?
Yes. I mean, something had to click to say, I'm doing this.
What happened was I wanted, ever since, I don't remember when it started, but I don't remember when it was never a goal. I just wanted to play college football so bad. That was like I could win the Heisman Trophy and never go to the pros, and I would have been totally okay with it. I loved college. I still love college football.
Were you emotionally intelligent enough at the time to understand where you were, though? I mean, you were in the Air Force.
Yeah, but it's big-time football.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not like I'm playing at Ohio State, but you go to.
I know it's the die for it thing we were talking about earlier.
And I was smart enough to do the school, and it was a good, I'm like, dude, they run a wishbone offense, being a fullback style.
So it was all about football.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the big, now the other stuff was awesome too. Right? And but I realized, it's not that, like, you don't have that. You can obviously play football and do very well there, but there's everything else you have to deal with. And I realized, like, I wasn't good enough at football to just do football. I mean, to do anything else other than football, if that makes sense.
So how'd this conversation go with your parents?
I didn't tell them. I just fucking left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my parents are incredibly supportive, and I was never one of those kids who got in trouble and did crazy stuff. Like, they knew.
No, but this is a big change.
Yeah, but I just told them, like, I probably maybe a day, out processing took me like a month. It was a big pain in the ass there. But I think I just called them up and said, I'm leaving. And they're like, okay. I'm like, I'll let you know because this is before cell phones. You had a calling card.
Calling card.
I
forgot about
remember
those.
that? Yeah. It cost you $680 for a 3-minute conversation. Yeah, but so I never discussed it with them, like, over any length or something. They just said, all right, that's fine. Because it wasn't, I had enough credibility with my parents, I think, with mature stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I just left, and I think, I don't even know. It doesn't matter. I was probably I only had a couple months at home. I worked at a freight company loading semis and then I would train and stuff when I got home. But anyway, my dad and I sat down, and he said, do you still want to play football? I'm like, you have no idea how much I want to play football. And he's like, all right, I'll pay your way as long as you're going to have to get a job, but it didn't have to pay for the school kind of thing. He's like, if you if you're willing to give forth the effort, I'll give you the opportunity, which I'm very lucky to have. And I hear the same thing, like, oh, it's awesome. I'm like, yeah, but I spent 6 years prior to this. My dad actually finally said something to me the other day I couldn't believe. He's like, I never, ever had to worry about you. The most self-motivated person I've ever met in my life. He's like, when you want to do something, he's like, it's easy being your dad. He's like, I had to hold you back. Like, come on, can we go home now? But so I remember I saw Arizona play. They had just recently played Miami in the Fiesta Bowl and just crushed them. And then they played Georgia Tech, I think, that year in 94, whatever. And they were just kind of on the news. They were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I was like, what's farther away from Illinois than Arizona? And it was warm. And they had their entire team was made up of like guys who were, instead of running a 4.6, ran a 4.8. Instead of being 6'2", they were 5'11". They were all the grunts that no one wanted. That's how they built their team. And I was like, I can fit in here. Like, I'm just a piece of shit kid, And I was like, Dick Tomey was a hard-nosed coach. And I'm like, I just want to play downhill style football. And whatever. The point being is I went out there. I didn't get it. My dad and I flew out there. And it's like, it was probably 80 degrees. And we had just left like 20 below in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
And I was like, and my dad now, he's like, don't tell me what you're thinking or anything. I want you to process all the, different things. And after I visited a bunch of schools, I'm like, I'm going to Arizona. He's like, yeah, good. Thank God. At least I can visit and be warm. But the other thing is I didn't get a preferred walk-on. I didn't contact the coaches. I just walked on, or I just signed up. There was walk-on tryouts, and what was it? It was probably in March or something. Whenever it was. So I was there for a couple months, but I still don't know how I got out. I left with 2 bags. I flew into Phoenix and I had to find a ride to Tucson. I had no way. And I got some guy to drive me down there. And I'm like, Jesus, my parents are like, hey, you're good to go, buddy.
Yeah, figure it out.
Godspeed.
Yeah, and it's not a short distance. It's probably a 2-hour drive or something. And, but again, we didn't have cell phones. I had no contact with anyone, didn't know anyone there. And I think, like, God, that it's not like, if you take a risk now, Dave, like, there's a lot of consequences, not just for you, not just for your family, but for everyone in this company and all. And I think, that was a great risk. I'm like, yeah, what's the big deal? Like, the worst comes to worst, I just have to sleep outside. I'll probably get a flight home from my parents or something. So, but I'm still impressed, like, I did that. And I'm not saying that's like the most courageous thing, but I'm like, well, let's see how this works.
At the time, though, that's a big deal.
No, it's a big thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
and man, I was like, but what if I don't make the team? I'm like, holy shit! Like, my dreams are. So I worked so hard, leading up to that, and I remember making the team, and I was just like, oh my God. And I got my first fight the first day of P.E.D.S. Got my ass handed to me. Oh. Because Arizona's defense was the Desert Swarm. It was a crazy. I think the 94 year they gave up something like 18 inches of rush the entire year. It's just, dude, it's insane. They were so violent, Dave. It was such a weird time. I don't think people understand. Like, football was run by the players on that team. It was like the Hells Angels. Things were just different. It's like the coaches were like, maybe we can do we ain't doing shuttles. Guess we're not doing shuttles, boys.
I didn't want to do this shit either. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah. Good call. That's what's on the board here. But so yeah, it was, and that I remember that first day. Somehow because my first time playing was in spring ball, and there's not as many guys there because the whole class had graduated. And for some reason, the coach put me in, and I carried the ball, and it was a goal line. So not only do we have the number one defense, but they know exactly
where the ball's going.
And I got crushed, and I started fucking trying to punch a guy, and then one guy grabbed this arm, one guy grabbed this arm, the other guy some other dude was just fucking wailing on me. I'm like, I don't fucking care. Fuck off, everyone. I was so mad. Just that night, or that after practice, I'm walking away. I'm like, holy shit. And they're like, hey, you did all right. The defensive guys, you want to come over? We'll drink some beers. And I'm like, all right.
You gonna punch me again?
Because is it free beer? But it was just it was a really cool experience, and I obviously did very well for me, So, but wow, I just can't believe that it's just so long ago, but it seems like such a world away. It
is. But I mean, in life, you have these defining decisions, defining moments, that we make. Sometimes you don't know how defining they are.
Yeah. Well, that's what people always say. Look, I wish I had the opportunity. Well, you might have.
Yeah, you could. You might have.
Just didn't, open that door. So
didn't jump.
I always say the leader. What is it? Shit. The mentor will appear when the student is ready. Something. Well,
the student's got to be also not only ready, but
open
and observant.
Yes.
Where if you're stressed beyond belief, you're not going to see opportunity.
No, that narrow vision.
Yes. If you're so burned out, overworked, overtrained, whatever you want to say, you're not going to see the opportunity around you. It's there. It's there for everybody. It's there. But if you don't fucking look or then act on it, you still had to move.
Not just act on it, but be ready for success in that.
Be prepared.
And so when we had tryouts, I was fine. Like I didn't stress the tryouts. It's like, so I was fine with that. That's why I was like all those years I've been training and all the time I spent, like I'm fine. Like I'm not worried about this stuff. I just don't know if I'm good enough. And then you see when you go there, like, no, I'll be fine.
I can't remember what the show was, but there's been a couple of them.
I gotta get going.
Okay,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Anyhow, I was going to say there used to be these shows that were kind of like DeFranco training centers, and you would see these guys coming back every year for the NFL tryout, and it'd be like the third year or the fourth year, and you would listen to these guys, and they still have faith it's going to happen, but to your point, they were not going to let themselves get out of shape in case they got called up or anything, because they felt that's the worst thing that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
Is I just take it easy for 6 weeks, then I get called up.
Yeah, all of a sudden I got it.
And then you're fucked.
James Harrison was cut, half a dozen times? He was in NFL Europe. I mean, there's people on this earth right now and didn't even know there was an NFL Europe. Like, what? Really? And James Harrison is a fucking stud. And, obviously Kurt Warner is a terrific story, even though his wife's a little weird. I felt, it's like a movie with Kurt Warner, about Kurt Warner. And so as soon as I saw the first preview, I recognized it was Kurt Warner's story. I'm like, ugh, who's got to play his wife? Dude, she's fucking crazy butch-looking bitch.
I have some research to do.
Oh my God! I remember when I first saw her, in the stands that year. You're like, Kurt Warner, what a great story! And there's his wife cheering. I was like, oh God!
He switched the camera to the janitor.
Oh my God, it was so bad. And she just seemed like a big pain in the ass. So. Anyway.
All right, let's close this down so he can get to work.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I got to go take a leak, too. All
right, guys, thank you very much for watching 100 episodes of the Elite FTS Table Talk, Dave Tate's Table Talk podcast. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the